You may stand out of Vandalize versus Starry. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Young lady, have a seat, please.
Ms. Vandalize, it is your claim that the defendant purposely damaged your car by throwing a coffee mug at it,
Yes.
which caused it to dent and something to crack. The defendant says he absolutely did that.
Yes, I did.
And he says he's got a good reason. So I have a few questions to ask you. I gather that you people really don't know each other.
No.
But you live in a house that's in a cul-de-sac, and you have a friend that lives in that cul-de-sac,
Yes.
whom you visit frequently.
Well, not anymore.
Well, you used to.
Yeah.
How old are you?
19.
And you've been told before by people that live on the street that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that a fair statement?
No.
Have you ever been found guilty of driving at an excessive rate of speed?
Yes.
Where?
Freeways, mostly.
How many speeding violations do you have?
Since I had my license.
So I assume that you were driving before you had your license. You're not going to tell me that. You're going to tell me after you had your license. How many speeding violations have you had?
I think like 7.
7.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be beyond a reasonable person's imagination that you drive too quickly in this cul-de-sac. Is that right?
Right.
So why don't you tell me what happened on the day that Mr. Starry threw a coffee mug at your car?
Me and my sister were driving to pick up my friend. As we were driving by Mr. Starry and his friends, I don't know, my windows were up, so all I heard was just a bunch of yelling, and I saw a bunch of people outside on the sidewalks in the street.
So that there were people out there. Were there adults and children?
I saw adults, mostly.
Or maybe you were going too fast to see the children.
No. It's the cul-de-sac that they live in. It's really hard to speed because it's at a curve, and there are cars
Most
parked.
cul-de-sacs are on a curve. That's what a cul-de-sac is. It's a curve. Goes around.
Well,
So you went to pick up your friend, and what happened after you went to pick up your friend?
while we were in her house, some ladies came up to the door, said, you know, she was speeding, you know, slow down, and I acknowledged that.
So you acknowledged that you were going too fast.
Yes,
on that day.
I listened to them.
Why did you do it?
I mean, I wasn't speeding like going 30, I wasn't going over 35 miles an hour.
35 miles an hour is not what you do in a cul-de-sac. Then you left. In the car. You were
Yeah.
driving. Is that right?
Yes.
And what happened?
As we were driving by Mr. Starry, something was thrown at my car, it bounced off, and that's when I stopped the car and got out to see what was going on.
Did you exchange words?
Yes, we did.
What were the words?
Well, he was just yelling at me to, I don't know if I could touch.
Slow down.
Well, he was just yelling and screaming and getting in my face. He didn't say it politely.
Okay, I'll hear you.
Your Honor, on the day in question, I was inside my house when she came into the neighborhood, and my wife and 2 neighbor ladies went to the door and knocked on the door and asked her to slow down. What they reported to me was they laughed and slammed the door in their face. When I heard
That sounds right.
When I heard that, I got irritated. When she backed out of her driveway and screeched her tires to come up the cul-de-sac, without really even any consideration, I stepped out in front of her and threw my coffee cup at her car.
Can I say something about what he said?
Sure.
That car could not screech tires if you tried because it's a Corolla and it was an automatic. When the ladies came up to the door, it was my friend's mother who actually opened the door, and I don't think she would slam the door in their face.
Did you
She
laugh
came
at
up
her?
to us saying, "There's ladies outside saying you guys were speeding." We're like, "Well, okay."
Is that what you said, like, well, okay?
Well, my friend came up to the door to talk to them, and they were just yelling and screaming, saying, "You're speeding, you're speeding."
And you said, well, okay.
I said, "Okay, I understand. You know, what else am I supposed to say?"
Okay. Now, would it be a fair statement that prior to this incident, you would go and pick up your friends pretty often?
Almost daily.
Now, after this incident, would it be a fair statement that you don't go to pick up your friend anymore?
Yes.
Oh,
Shh, 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 just a second.
I'm sorry.
That you don't go there every day anymore. And you don't go there every day anymore because you're frightened to go on that street.
No, don't go on that street anymore because he constantly harasses me. I've had this whole summer.
So that you are frightened to go on that street because he harasses you. And you're afraid what might happen.
Yeah, he's threatened me before.
Not before this incident,
Not
you
before
said.
this incident,
Afterwards. So it would be fair to say that as a result of him throwing a mug at your car, you don't go to pick up your friend anymore.
Yes, you can say that.
So you accomplished your purpose. Is that right? Just answer my question. So you accomplished your purpose. You don't have to worry. Just listen to me. You don't have to worry about her as you did previously.
Now it's that way, Your Honor, but it wasn't that way until after, I would say, June or July.
Fine, but then you've accomplished what you wanted to accomplish. Is
Right,
that
but
right?
I finally had to take her to another court for attempting to run me over in the street.
But now she doesn't come back.
Finally, yes, and I'm
Perfect.
happy with that.
Now, I absolutely think that each of you should bear a certain responsibility with regard to this incident. Would that be a fair statement?
Yes.
Good. I'm awarding you $1. The rest of it's your fault. That's all. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
That dollar thing was totally uncalled for.
I'm happy.
I did what he wanted me to do. I stopped coming over there. I stopped speeding.
I'm happy with that. That's what I wanted.
And now the next case.
All parties on Astuto versus Curley, step forward, please.
23-year-old secretary Joan Astuto is suing her ex-fiancé, 25-year-old tile setter Sean Curley, for half the cost of a wedding that never happened.
Mrs. Studo, according to your complaint, you had a long relationship with the defendant, spanning a little over 5 years.
Yes.
You have a child together,
Yes.
and at some point you decided to get married. He proposed and gave you a ring.
Yes. I picked it out. I put down 80 towards it, and he put the rest.
Okay, how much was the ring?
It was a little over $200. I put down 156.
Okay, and then there came the time when you started to plan the wedding. And you put some money down on various things for the wedding, a hall, a DJ, all totaling about $700. And then in September you decided this was not going to work out. You called off the wedding and moved out, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you put the money down on?
The reception hall at the Spartan Manor,
How much was that?
600,
Yeah.
and 95 towards the DJ.
Who was going to pay for the wedding?
We were both, but I put down the money for the DJ. And
Tell me the discussion that you had.
Well, I discussed on where to have it, and we agreed at the Spartan Manor, and then we went together to the reception site and put down the deposit.
Okay, and how come you put down the deposit?
Because I was the one who had the money.
I didn't have the lump sum of $600 to put down at the time.
At the time.
Yes, ma'am.
And what about the DJ?
I told him how I was booking that DJ, and he agreed.
I don't remember anything like that.
How did you think this wedding was going to get paid for?
Very slowly.
What do you mean very slowly? What does that mean?
Basically,
Don't look down. Look up at me.
okay, sorry, ma'am. Week for week until it was paid off. The $600 was a down payment, and then they wanted payment after that every week, and I would have to pay that.
Oh, that's perfect. So it was your intention, Mr. Curley, despite your answer, that you intended to pay for this wedding together.
Yes, ma'am.
So why don't you think you were at least partially responsible for the down payments that she put down?
She kept the engagement ring.
Did you keep the engagement ring?
Yes,
Oh, well, he has to be given credit for that. Why didn't you give it back to him?
because he left.
So what?
I also paid $80 for that wedding ring.
Okay, but he paid $156, right?
Or how about I just give him his ring back?
Oh, fine. Where is it?
I can do that. It's at my house.
Oh, it's easier. So I don't have to deal with that later. We'll just take off the $156. The entire cost that you put down was $700. Half of that would be $350. So that's $194.
I also left my house, gave it to her, $48,000, fully furnished. We have a child together, and I left them two in the house.
How much equity is there in the house?
Nothing. We just
couldn't-
bought it a year ago.
How much of a down payment did you put down?
A little over $1,000.
So you didn't leave her with a $48,000 house. You left her with a $47,000 debt. You have a daughter together?
Yes, ma'am.
Paying child support?
Yes, ma'am.
How much?
I pay, right now it's not court ordered, but I'm paying $88 every week. We do have a court date for that in a couple weeks to determine child
And
support.
do you visit with your daughter regularly?
No, I haven't seen her since Christmas Day of 2000.
Why is that?
She has not let me see her.
Why is that?
I've told him he can come to the house and pick her up, and he refuses.
I've had threats from her house.
You know, I've done in the last
Just a
5
second.
years for
Just a
him
second.
enough. I am, you know, I'm not his mother. I don't want to be his mother anymore.
I'm not interested in whether you want to be his mother anymore. So you say that you've told him that he can come to the house and pick up your
numerous
daughter.
times.
What does he want you to do?
He says no. He says to meet me at the police station. This weekend I called him to meet him at the police station. I talked to his girlfriend and argued with her on the phone.
Just a second. So he was smart and he indicated to you, just meet me for pickup and delivery at the police station. If he's afraid of some altercation that might take place when he comes to pick up the child in your home, then usually when I was full-time sitting family court judge, I would make pickup and return in some neutral place where there were people around so that would avoid confrontation between two people who don't get along. So picking up and returning the child at the police station is a very good idea.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He has to see his daughter. You have absolutely no right to keep the child from him. None. And I would assume that when you go to court, you make sure that you tell the judge when you go to court, Mr. Curley,
Yes, ma'am.
that what you had suggested because of the problems was a pickup and return in a neutral spot, and she had rejected that.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no question that the court will order visitation because whether it worked out between the two of you or not, your child has a right to spend time with you.
Yes, ma'am.
So judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $194. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Rosen versus Dina Cola. Step forward, please.
29-year-old computer consultant David Rosen is suing his ex-girlfriend, 26-year-old computer technician Maria Dina Cola, for an unpaid loan to move.
Mr. Rosen, your complaint alleges that you and the defendant were dating for a while, and
Yes.
you made a loan to her in the amount of $3,000, and that was in order to help her move.
Correct.
Tell me when you made this loan to her,
October 4th.
and how long had you been dating before you made this loan to her?
Approximately 6 months.
And tell me the circumstances surrounding the loan.
Well, first off, we met in a chat room on the internet, online, and she was moving into a new apartment, and at the time, she had the money in her account, but she claimed that her father needed to borrow some money from her for some reason, which I don't really know. And so that meant that to make the rental deposit, she would need to take money out of her 401k, and I just couldn't have her take that money out for tax reasons. And so I wrote her the check for $3,000.
That doesn't sound like a loan.
We verbally agreed.
No, tell me what you said to her and what she said to you. She said to you, I'm going to take the money out of my 401k. And you said to her, don't do that.
I said, and I don't remember the exact wording, but I said,
Try as
on the
closely
condition,
as you can. Yes, don't tell me something. Don't tell me something I'm not going to believe, Mr. Rosen. Tell me something
Right.
very believable.
right,
Okay.
on the condition that she pays me back within approximately 2 weeks, that I will write this check to her. Now, actually, I do have the canceled check.
She doesn't dispute the fact that you wrote her a check for $3,000.
The canceled check actually has an item in the memo field that
I'd like
says
to
that
see
it was
it.
a loan. Yeah.
Just a minute.
There you go.
Show her this check, please.
That's the check he gave me, but the part about the loan for rental deposit was not there when I cashed that check.
That's possible.
That's not true. It was there when the check was cashed.
The pen is the same. Certainly the handwriting is the same. Now, you tell me about the circumstances surrounding this $3,000.
Mr. Rosen and I were in fact dating, and at the point that I was moving to a house, not an apartment. Not only did he give me this money, he co-signed so that I could move in. He paid for my moving expenses, he got me the truck and helped me move. The reason I moved, I was comfortable where I was. He thought that it was a better idea for me to move because he didn't like my neighbors. He expressed sentiments that were racially biased. He didn't like where I lived. He thought it would be better for me to move. Helped me to move, and like I said, co-signed for me to move in, took care of everything for me. Never was I mentioned this as a loan. After I moved in, he started to get more and more possessive and more trying to tell me what to do, dictating so far as what I should buy at the grocery store. And my witness here saw that he would. But the point I'm trying to make, Judge,
that's not true.
Mr. Rosen, don't speak to her.
The point I'm trying to make is that he gave me this money so that I would do what he wanted, and
Just
it was
a
not
second. I want you to tell me your version surrounding
the money.
the money.
Okay. There were some things going on in my life, and I did need the money.
For what?
Moving expenses and things like that.
Okay.
To move, to make sure that I was okay when I did move, get things that I needed when I moved, things like that.
Okay, and you didn't have the money.
No.
Why?
I have a child and I work, but I just didn't have enough. I didn't have that amount of money to move. It wasn't within my budget.
Did you in fact tell him that you were going to take money out of your 401k?
Yes, I did. We were dating. We spoke about what I was going to do. Was I going to take money out of my 401k? What should I do? At that point, he then said, I don't mind helping you out. Because at the time, I guess that was how he felt. There were other instances of him doing things like that, giving me money, buying me things.
I don't want to hear about other instances. That's not what we're hearing
In this instance, he did in fact give me the money. It was not a loan. I would not have taken the loan because I knew that I didn't have the means to pay it back.
No, it absolutely was a loan.
Mr. Rosen, don't speak. Now, on what date did you sign the lease?
To be honest,
Think very hard.
I'm going to say the 14th of October. 14th or 15th of October was my move-in date.
That was your move-in date?
Yes.
I asked you when you signed the lease.
The day that I moved in, I signed lease.
When had you found the house?
Right around the 1st of October.
And who went with you to find the house?
Mr. Rosen did. He actually did the looking on the internet for me, helped me find all the ones we went to look at, and he physically took me and we went.
Now, how much after Mr. Rosen gave you this $3,000 did you break up with each other?
I'm going to say December of that same year.
Where had you been living prior to moving into this house?
A condo about an hour away from where I moved.
And how long had you been living there?
Approximately 6 months. It was nearing the end of my lease, so 6 months, ma'am.
When was your lease over there?
October of that year.
So you were planning on moving?
No, ma'am. It was just time to either renew or decide what I was going to do.
Actually, she was being kicked out for noise complaints of the place that she was living in at the time, and she needed to move. Also, as far as proof that this was a loan, I do have an email where she actually states that once she files her taxes, that she will that she plans to repay.
Thank you.
It's the part outlined in blue, the last line or so.
I dispute that I sent him an email because after we both...
Show this to the defendant, please. Seemed to indicate in that email that you planned on paying him back.
Can I respond? I did send him part of that email because he was stalking me, but the part about paying him back was not in the original email. I did not put that part in the email.
I did not modify that email at all.
Shh. Look at me. Don't look at her.
Sorry.
I did, that's a true statement. I did write most of that. I did not write about filing my taxes, only because I didn't get any taxes back and I knew I wasn't going to. I wrote that because he was constantly stalking me. And
what do you think he was
I
stalking?
was not stalking
Well,
you.
shh. Hey,
Sorry.
what do you think he was stalking you for?
at the time we broke up, he didn't want to break up. He used to leave me phone messages. Never once was there anything
broke
about
up
owing
with
me
you.
money.
Mr. Rosen, if you speak to her again,
I'm sorry.
is the only part of this email, madam, that you claim that he distorted or added to the part about your taxes?
Yeah, because
All right. Then let me read to you what you said to him first. You said, my phone wasn't disconnected Friday because I was home all day and my mom and dad kept calling me and I'd been in the hospital the night before. Okay? You wrote that. Like I said, I will email you next week to let you know when you can get your money.
Can I tell you how that was altered? At the time,
That has not been altered.
Mr. Rosen!
Sorry. I'm sorry, Your Honor.
You keep saying it, but you keep forgetting.
at the time, he had things in mind that he still has, and what we were supposed to meet to do was exchange those things. There was never any mention of the money. What that did say was that he has my rollerblades, which he still has. He has another pair of rollerblades he bought me while we were dating that he wouldn't give back. That's what that email was about. That's it.
Where is your copy of the email?
I don't keep emails. I mean, he keeps everything that's ever sent to him.
Good.
I don't.
Let us say that somebody, out of the goodness of their heart, because they feel as if you are strapped and you have a child, says, here, don't take the money out of your 401k. You'll have tremendous tax consequences. It'll be double that amount. Here's $3,000. And within a brief span of 8 weeks, you break up with each other. You say he broke up with you, you say you broke up with him. Then the right thing to do is to pay him back for $3,000. Doesn't that seem right to you?
Yes, ma'am.
So pay him. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,000. That's all.
Parties are excused.
Thank you,
You may
Your
step
Honor.
out.
I've been trying for an entire year to get this money from her.
He would call me many, many times in the same day. My roommate saw him twice in the area of my house. He doesn't live there, anywhere near there.
I have never been in her neighborhood. I don't even know where she lives now.
If he does it again, I'm going to get a restraining order.
I'm just glad justice has been done.
Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose.
Melissa and Raymond Musser are suing their neighbors, 25-year-old administrative assistant Michelle Riffle and her father, Skip Riffle. The Mussers claim Michelle's 6-year-old son, DJ, is responsible for the death of their puppy.
Order. All rise. Yes, this is case number 369 on the calendar in the matter of Musser versus Riffle. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Little people, have seats.
Mr. and Mrs. Musser, I've read your complaint very carefully, and I have read the response from the defendants. Because of the sensitive nature of some of the allegations in your complaint and in the answer, I'm going to ask the children leave the courtroom, because unless I absolutely need them, I don't think that they should be here. Tell me your name.
DJ.
How old are you, DJ?
6.
And who is this lady sitting with you?
My grandma.
Would you like to go outside with your grandma for a little while? Good. I think that's a good idea. And who is this?
Mackenzie.
And how old are you, Mackenzie?
6.
Are you a friend of DJ's? Do you live next door? I'm going to ask you to go out with DJ's grandma, okay? She's going to take the two of you outside. All right? Good. Beautiful children.
You okay?
Okay. You had a puppy,
Yes, we did.
and I gather this was from a litter of puppies that you had.
Yes.
You decided to keep this puppy. It had some special medical problems, and you dealt with those medical problems and had some substantial vet bills. The little boy, DJ, is the next door neighbor, and he lives with you,
He lives with me. I live with my parents.
and you're his grandfather.
Correct.
Here's Mom.
Yes.
And it is your allegation that DJ, when he was 5, is responsible for the death of your puppy while he was playing in your backyard.
Correct.
Which is a fenced-in backyard. It's your claim that he, either alone or with some other little children that he was playing with, put the puppy in a cooler and put a rock over the cooler, and the puppy must have suffocated.
Correct.
And you want the defendants to be responsible for the dog and to pay minimally all the vet bills that you had as a result of bringing your dog up until the point when she was killed, right?
Correct.
That's what the lawsuit is about.
Yes.
And I am going to assume, for the purpose of this trial, that it is true that DJ and or the little boys that he was with put the dog in the cooler. Not maliciously, because it's your claim that he was afraid the dog would get out of the fenced yard, and they just put the dog in the cooler in order to make sure that the dog didn't get away. I don't feel as if it's necessary to question this child about it, because I'm sure it's a very traumatic event. So I am going to assume for this trial that DJ did in fact cause the death of your dog. Do you both understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
And then the question becomes responsibility. Are the defendants actually responsible for his actions? So I have a few questions for you. First, how old was your dog?
The dog was only a couple months old, maybe 3 at the most.
Well, you should know.
She was born on March 6th.
She was born in March, so it was...
Almost 3 months. She was like a week away from being 3 months.
And was this dog the only one you kept from the litter?
Yes.
I also believe that their dog fathered this litter. Is that right?
We're not sure who the father is.
What kind of dog was it?
I have a dachshund, and I have pictures of the puppy.
I'd like to see the picture. What were the medical problems with the puppy?
First, the animal had suffered a broken leg, and these are pictures of the dog with the broken leg.
This is
How did the dog suffer a broken leg?
Another neighbor child broke its leg, and they reimbursed us for the leg.
Another neighbor's child broke the leg?
Yeah, threw the puppy down because the puppy had got him dirty, and the mom felt responsible and reimbursed us for the payment of the leg.
This puppy did not have a good life. Now, did you allow the neighbor's children to come into your yard to play with the
No.
puppy?
He had come to my door one day and asked if he could play with the puppy, and I said, not with
You mean
her.
DJ?
Yes. And I said she had just gotten her cast off. I said, I don't want you guys in my yard unless I'm there, because I felt like if her leg was already sensitive after the cast was off, I was worried about it getting rebroken or something.
So you told him that?
Yes, I told him no.
And how much before the day that the puppy died did you have that conversation with the little boy?
About 3 days before.
Now tell me what happened on the day that you found the puppy in the cooler.
I had went out to dinner with a friend of mine, and my husband called me on my cell phone and said, I had actually put the puppy out back that day because I had a Girl Scout meeting, and while the Girl Scouts were there, I said, you can't be in the house, you're not potty trained yet. So I stuck her out because we have a fenced-in yard. Here's a picture of our yard. And I had put the puppy out back, and then my husband, after the Girl Scouts left, a friend of mine and we went to dinner, and my husband called me and said, have you seen Frosty? And I said, no. Can you please look for her? Maybe somebody had taken her, because a lot of people had thought she was cute in the neighborhood. And that's when he was looking for her. And
I'd come home earlier that day, just after the puppy was put out, and there were the neighborhood boys in our backyard playing with the puppy. When I came in, one of the boys left, and I had gone into the house to just relax after work. And hours later, after I'd gone outside to bring the dogs in, check on the kids that were out playing, we couldn't find the one dog. We looked around the neighborhood, couldn't find the animal. We talked to several neighborhoods, and nobody had seen the animal. When I'd gone into my backyard, I noticed a rock on top of my cooler.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Melissa and Raymond Musser claim neighbor Michelle Riffle's son killed their puppy when he put the dog in a cooler. Michelle says the puppy's death was an accident.
So am I correct, Mr. Musser, that when you came home, you found some of the neighborhood children in your backyard?
Correct.
Did you tell them to leave?
No, I did not. At the time they were playing with the puppy, I didn't see any harm.
Was DJ one of those children?
Yes, he was, ma'am.
Now, what makes you think that this was an intentional act?
I don't think it was intentional, ma'am. And I don't think he did it to kill the puppy, and that's never been an issue. It was an accident. I'm sure the child did not know that this would result in the death of the puppy.
So you, by permitting the children to remain there and not telling them to leave, actually gave them license to be playing with the dog.
Yes.
How many children were in the yard playing with the puppy?
When I first pulled in, there were 3.
DJ and 2 others?
Yes, ma'am. And when I had come in the gate, the one child went home. And so it was just DJ and another child left there.
About the same age, 5 years old?
Correct.
Okay. Now, who was responsible for supervising DJ on that day?
Raymond was.
Why would I be responsible for
No, don't speak to her.
At the time that the death of the puppy, Lisa was watching my daughter and DJ when he came home from school from kindergarten after school until my mother returned home from work about 2 or 3 that afternoon.
So Mrs. Musser was watching your child
She watched my daughter and DJ when he returned from kindergarten about 12 until my
Had you
mother.
made an arrangement with her to do that before?
Yes, I did.
Was this a regular routine? Do you pay her for that
Yes,
service?
since December of 2000.
Do you pay her for that service?
I did pay her.
So there was nobody in your house?
At about 3 o'clock, I don't know what time my mother came home. She's a witness today, so I don't know apparently what time she came home.
What day was this happened?
it happened on May 23rd, and I was not babysitting. I had quit before that. I had quit at the end of April, the 1st of May, because things were happening with the babysitting. I wasn't being paid on time, and I wasn't babysitting since December. It was January 1st.
And not only that, ma'am, I get off work at 4:30. It takes me an hour to get home. So I got home around 5:30, well after the time her mother was home.
Okay. Yes.
He just indicated, Your Honor, he came home early that day. He does normally come home about 4 or 5. But he indicated he came home early, saw the boys playing, so he
It
was
could have
home
been.
early.
So he got home at 3. Still after that time, your wife would have been home.
Correct.
So that somebody was home at that point. So you are mistaken that they were responsible for babysitting for
You're
your
right.
son. So your mother at that point was responsible for him. Is that right?
You're right, correct.
What time did you get home?
I usually got home about between 6:15 and 6:30, depending on the traffic.
And what time did you discover the puppy in the cooler?
It had to be around 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Now I'd like to see the bills that you have. How many other dogs do you have, by the way?
We have one.
Just one? Just a
One.
mother? And this little puppy?
Yes.
What did all the bills come to?
At the one point, we discussed that the bill would be taken care of by Mr. Riffle. We shook hands and made an agreement on $165. That was to take care of the major vet bill for this puppy, checkups, shots. But at one point, there was an agreement to pay $165. There was a handshake.
And what happened with that?
It never happened. What happened after that was he wanted receipts. Still nothing happened. The last time we discussed it, we went for a ride, and he wanted to pay $99 for the puppy and wanted me to have a letter rescinded or taken back, or an apology letter that was sent to him by another group of animal activists.
What kind of group of animal activists?
Your Honor, it's PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. We never accepted responsibility for the death of the puppy. We wanted it to end. The reason that I'm involved is I went to them and said, we're sorry about the death of the puppy. It's a cute puppy, looked just like his dad, just a darling puppy, and we were fond of that dog. And it was traumatic for us as well as for the boys to have that happen. I went to the Mussers and I went to Raymond and said, Raymond, what can we do? And his initial response was, what we want you to do is I want the boys brought here and I want to tell them that was wrong. I was apprehensive about that, but I said I'd agree to do that. And as I started to leave, Raymond says, no, the best thing to happen is to have the parents talk to the boys and have all these boys write a letter of apology to Lisa. All 3 of those boys did that, and there is a correction. All 3 of those boys were there. If you saw the other boy leave, it's incorrect, because when my wife went out to get the boys, they're all in front of the house sitting on a rock, and I have some photographs of that. And so Raymond told me, we don't want any money for the puppy, we want an apology. They did that. All 3 of those boys cried that night.
You understand why I didn't want them in the room?
Thank you. All 3 of those little boys were and they're really upset that that happened, and they did that. One of the boys even took some flowers over. And so we thought the issue was over with. And then a couple days later, in a school gathering with people all around, Mrs. Musser approaches my daughter and says, we understand that your son intentionally killed that puppy, and we want $150.
Just a second. What made you think that he intentionally harmed the puppy?
I never said that. I said, the puppy died, we have expenses. I said, what can we do about it? She says, how much do you want? I said, 150 will cover what we had. And she said, will that keep you quiet then? And I said, sure. And then when I asked her about a week later, I said, are you going to pay me the 150 like you'd promised? She said, I didn't promise you I was going to pay you. I just said, would that keep you quiet?
All right, what?
Your Honor, that's incorrect.
All right, what happened
I
with
can
regard
tell
to
you what
the...
happened, because she did it to me. She approached me and she stated that me and my husband need to talk to you. I said, about what? Well, we just found out DJ intentionally killed our puppy. I said it was an accident. She goes, putting a puppy in a cooler is an accident. She said, he's a 6-year-old boy. He doesn't understand that. I'm like, what do you want us to do? And she says, well, we sold the other puppies for $150. And I said, fine, because I did not want to deal with it with the parents there, the children there. I said, fine, turned around, she walked away. I was very shook up and very upset.
Of course. What's this thing from PETA? Just let's get to it quickly.
When Raymond indicated that he didn't think the boys intentionally killed the puppy, I went to him after this $150 incident at the school, and I said, Raymond, you told me you didn't want any money. We did what you asked us to do. Do you want money to compensate for the puppy? He again told me no. And as we got down the road, it became evident that they wanted some money for the puppy. In the meantime, we get a letter from PETA.
I see it, please.
And in the letter, it states, Your Honor, that they intentionally, without remorse, killed this puppy. We were heartbroken.
Now, what are you showing me here?
That was included in the letter.
Oh, okay.
To
So you
indicate
got a letter.
these poor 6-year-old
Okay.
children are going to be mass murderers.
Okay. All right, the letter's a little heavy, but what it says is, on May 22nd of this year, the boys apparently forced a neighbor's puppy into a cooler and weighted the lid down with bricks. We are told, and this is the people from PETA, that the children have admitted their roles in the puppy's death and that they have shown no remorse, which clearly, according to you, is not true. But then the bulk of the letter goes on to talk about the fact that children who have a history of torturing animals, unless there is intervention immediately, can grow up with serious antisocial characteristics, and therefore PETA is trying to inspire you to get help for your son if you need it. Because it says, by teaching your children compassion and empathy, you will help ensure that such incidents will not recur and that DJ and David will never find themselves in the system. It's a heavy letter. There's no question about that. They're really trying to be helpful in their own heavy way. Yeah, you can say something.
I have one more thing to say. This wasn't the first incident, not with him killing a puppy, but he had taken my daughter shoplifting, my little one, And we got a call from the store that they were shoplifting at, and my husband went and picked up Mackenzie from the store. It's like, we timed it on her car, it's almost a mile away from our house. And he had wrote me another apology note for taking her and not telling us where they were going. And that's why I was not babysitting when the puppy died, because I had it. I could not. We just had a lot of incidences with DJ and Mackenzie, and I just felt like it would be better just to.
They're 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds have to be supervised all the time, right?
Absolutely.
And clearly, at the time of this incident, your 5-year-old was not being supervised properly. That means that the person responsible, in this case your mother, who you left in charge of the child because it was when she was home from work, should have been watching more closely as to where he was and what he was doing. But Mr. Musser, if you came home and found the children playing with your puppy, because this is not clearly a locked fence, and told them to leave, and they did leave, and then they came back at some other point, I would find the defendants totally responsible. But by your allowing, despite the fact that your wife had said to the 5-year-old, you know, don't come in today and play with the puppy because a few days earlier, because the puppy's leg is just getting better, you clearly didn't have a problem with the boys playing with the puppy, because not only did you permit it, but you left, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So you two are partially responsible, because just as they are responsible for the actions of their 5-year-old, you should be responsible for what goes on in your own backyard. In this case, you allowed these children to remain in your backyard and play with the puppy. And that despite the fact that your puppy had had a broken leg by the hands of another little child playing a little too rough with the puppy, which was not smart. Don't you feel any responsibility at all?
Yes, I do, ma'am.
Good.
But one other thing, you know, at the point the kids were all friends. I didn't see the harm. They weren't picking the puppy up.
Well, you didn't know that, sir. The moment that you saw them, they weren't picking the puppy up. But when you went into the house, you didn't keep your eye on them outside. Not only did you keep your eye on them, but you left. Listen, there's no question that the parents of this 5-year-old are partially responsible because he was inadequately supervised. But at the same token, you inadequately supervised this fragile puppy. So you are equally as responsible.
Your Honor?
Yes.
I have a curiosity why there were 3 boys involved and we're the only one here in court today.
I have no idea why you're the only ones here, sir. But you are the only ones here. And you have to take responsibility. There is a certain responsibility. Your wife should have been watching a 5-year-old out at play more carefully. And Mr. Musser should have been more vigilant about taking care of a small puppy, and he was not. And if the bills for this puppy added up to $165, I believe that you should each cover half of those bills, because each of you is responsible for not doing your jobs. Listen, stop showing me papers. More importantly, it seems that you live next door. You're going to continue to live next door. You have kids together, and despite the fact that you say, I don't want DJ to be around my daughter because he took her to the store and they were shoplifting, been there. You have to be more vigilant in watching your children. But you're going to be there, and it's a terrible thing to have to remain next-door neighbors and not be civil to each other. So he's a nice little boy. He'll probably grow up and graduate from high school and graduate from college and be just fine, and your little girl will be none the worse for wear for a little shoplifting when she was 4.
27-year-old receptionist Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica.
All rise. Yeah, this is case number 284 on the calendar in the matter of Bocock versus Bocock. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Ma'am, sir, have a seat.
Who are you, sir?
Herb Shavers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure, because I've read all of these papers. This is your father.
Yes.
Your mother?
Yes.
Ms. Bocock, according to your complaint, you are suing your father for money that you owe to the state.
Yes.
For child support.
Yes.
And that came about because several years ago, your daughter, who was quite young, was removed from your care. According to all the papers and documents that I've read, the child was removed from your care because the gentleman who you were living with hit her. She was about 18 months old. The child was placed in foster care for about a year, a little less than a year, and then went into your parents' home. Correct?
Reasonably close, yes, ma'am.
How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which meant that you were getting money from the state as a foster parent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way things work these days, even if you're a grandparent. And then you were told that you had to file for either custody or guardianship of the child, and you consented to your parents having guardianship.
I was threatened.
Threatened by whom?
I was threatened by my social worker that if I did not give my parents guardianship, I would never see my daughter again. She would go up for adoption. I would never see her again. I was not given a choice.
Doesn't make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this
True.
case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
I mean, you made certain choices when you were living with this gentleman that you were living with, because the child was ultimately removed from your care again. She was removed from your care once, and then you were told that she would be removed permanently if you let her have any contact with this man. And according to the papers that I read, you let her speak to him on the phone. She was just a little girl, and then you moved back in with him because you had some financial problems.
That's not true.
Well, according to the papers that I've read, Miss Bocock, your little girl was assaulted by this man. She was taken to the hospital. Bruises were noted. You were told at the time that the man had to be out of the house before you could get your daughter back. Correct?
That's correct.
To make a long story short, the child was with you, and there was a period of time when you had guardianship of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
After she had lived with you for several years as a foster child, and you began receiving welfare for her.
AFDC, yes, ma'am.
To the tune of about $2,000. As the rules of the state are, parents are responsible for the support of their children. So the state pursued you for this welfare money.
Correct.
And you say that there was some sort of an arrangement with your father that he would pay this amount.
Yes.
He says that there was not, the amount wasn't paid, your driver's license was suspended, and your credit ruined.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about the arrangement with your father?
On June 15th, at the last guardianship hearing,
look at me.
He knew that I had received the summons. I was being sued by the state for the welfare money, for the $2,392. He pulled me aside just before the last hearing and said, I will take care of this matter. I know you can't pay for it. I will take care of it. My lawyer at the time was standing right next to me. I'm a student. I'm a mom. I'm struggling. It's very difficult. It's not that I don't want to pay it back, but he promised to take care of it for me as a father because he knew I was having difficulty. I just started going back to school. I'm in college. I'm nearly completion of my 2-year degree in biology. So I'm very close now, but it's very difficult. I'm financially very strained right now.
So you want to pay the money back because it's your loan.
Right.
It's your debt.
Right. But he promised to take care of it for me. So that's why I'm here today, because I want him to honor that promise to me.
Let me hear your side of this, sir.
Well, ma'am, at no time have I ever said to anyone that I would pay this money either to her or for her. I did have a conversation after one of the guardianship hearings with her lawyer, Mr. Chavers, in which I asked him if he could get me information, a name of the district attorney and the phone number to talk to the person, because if you try and call in the district attorney's office, you get the royal runaround unless you have a case number. Because I had some things I want to discuss with him. What I didn't tell him at the time was that I was curious as to why they were charging her, Sandy, more than Jessica had received. And if he assumed from that conversation that I was saying I was going to pay for it, it was a 100% erroneous assumption.
Were you taking the money from the state because you needed it for your granddaughter, sir?
No. We could have supported her without it. In fact, most of the period of the guardianship, we didn't even know that we were eligible to receive it. It was a previous caseworker that said that we could receive that money, and in fact, it went for her daycare.
So how long did you have her in your custody without receiving any support?
I would say in the neighborhood of a year.
Because prior to that, you had foster care money that was coming in. Step up, sir.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I may, at any time during this whole guardianship issue, they knew that they could return my daughter to me with no strings attached. They
Well,
could
Ms.
return
Bocock,
her.
I don't believe that that's absolutely true.
I was absolutely willing to pay every cent to take care of her. I've never had a problem with that. But he promised to pay this amount. He said that he would.
Ms. Bocock, you just said a couple of things that really give me a problem. Let me tell you what they are, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life. I wanted him to honor his word this one time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica. Bob and his wife Barbara claim they looked after the little girl for 6 years and aren't responsible for the money.
If you wanted your daughter back, and you say there was no impediment to you getting your daughter back, and you were no stranger to the family court, all you had to do was to go into court, file your petition to terminate placement and to terminate guardianship, and if there was no impediment, you would have gotten your daughter back. So don't give me a lot of baloney that all they had to do was give her back. She's not a piece of meat. We're not talking about a parakeet.
I understand.
We're talking about a child.
I understand.
You understand that the child was removed from your care for cause by the family court, and the cause was neglect, because they only place children in foster care unless you voluntarily place your child when there is a finding of neglect. Aren't I right, sir?
This was under Arizona law, and I'm not familiar with Arizona law.
Well, Arizona is still part of the United States of America, sir. They do not remove children from parents without cause. Is that a fair statement?
Let me say this, that I have been involved in several cases where the issue of cause was at best in question, never substantiated.
That's why you're not the judge. That's why if the judge determines there's cause, a lawyer doesn't second guess them. I don't care what your view of the evidence was. The state cannot remove a child from a parent unless the parent voluntarily places that child or there is cause. So don't give me a lot of baloney. I've been in this business much longer than you have, sir. And that was my specialty. So if it's not yours, it was mine for 25 years. Now, you want to tell me your recollection of the conversation with Mr. Bocock?
There were two distinct and different conversations. One occurred in the hallway of the court following the hearing on June 15th. That conversation was involving Mr. Bocock, his attorney, the attorney for the minor as well, negotiations going back and forth.
Child had a lawyer.
Correct.
Child's always had a lawyer. They're called a law guardian, correct?
That's right, ma'am.
And the discussion was whether or not the child should be returned to the mother, correct?
Not at that point, no. The discussion was on the timing.
Our attorney had not told us that at this particular hearing there had been an agreement at the attorney's level that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that we bring Jessica and she takes her home. And we
So
just
you
asked
wanted more of a transition?
Yes, just to the end of the school.
And was that ultimately worked out?
Yes, ma'am, it was.
Is that correct?
It was, except for his comment that it was a surprise to them, came as quite a surprise to the counsels involved. We normally work these things out before we appear at court, so the reluctance that was expressed was quite surprising to us.
Well, it's not surprising to me because according to your former client, this conversation took place on the 15th of June. And according to the defendant, grandfather of the child, he said what he wanted was a transition so that the child could at least finish school, which I assume is 2 weeks down the pike at the end of June. Is that correct?
Yes,
Is that correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That strikes you as being odd?
The fact,
His grandfather, who's had custody of this child for 6 years, says, listen, it's June 15th, school is over June 30th. You know, we need 2 weeks, and aside from the fact she's in school. Does that strike you as being peculiar, sir?
in view of the facts of the time, the fact that we've been discussing the transition for about 6 to 8 months before then, yes.
It did strike you as being odd.
We've been
That's
working,
odd.
we've
Doesn't
been
strike
working
me
on
as
it.
being odd to wait 2 weeks until school is over. You have children?
Yes, I do.
Give me a break. All right, so now we're past that. Now we're down to money. Let me hear the conversation about the money.
We had been discussing for months the return of the child to the mother. It was obvious that the grandparents, because of the timing that they had applied for the AFDC payments, was already after the time that we had already discussing returning the child to the mother.
Mm-hmm.
There's not an issue of financial need on behalf of the grandparents. It was a matter of timing. At the hearing, the grandfather stated that he would handle the AFDC payments.
Just a second. What you heard is, I will handle it.
The exact verbiage, I'm unsure. What I recall is handle it or words to that effect.
Okay, so you're not as sure what the words were.
Not
Thank
the
you. You can have a
exact
seat.
word. There was another conversation.
Give me the other conversation.
The other conversation in context. Following the hearing on the 15th, I hand-carried all the court documents from the AFDC payments to Mr. Bulcock's attorney the following day, confirmed the fact that Mr. Bulcock was willing to handle the AFDC payments. And
confirmed with whom?
Confirmed to his attorney in the letter that I sent.
Just a second. You sent a letter to the attorney.
Correct.
You have a letter from the attorney to you confirming that?
No, I do not have a letter disputing it either.
He doesn't have to dispute it. You have a letter you sent to him and say, here, your client says he's going to take care of this. You have a letter from his attorney that says, that's correct, my client is going to take care of this?
Based on my extensive dealings with his attorney, had that statement been incorrect, I would have received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know, you can't rely on that. You sent him a letter. Here, your client said he would take care of this, and he says, what, is he crazy? Takes it and throw in the garbage. You think that he has an obligation to respond to you? He has no legal obligation to respond to you.
But he did, in fact, respond.
How? Let me see.
The response was in the form of a conversation.
That's hearsay.
I understand
with the
that,
attorney.
It's also
just a second.
Fact.
With the attorney, not with him.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Bulcock.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bulcock, not a conversation that you had with an attorney that didn't answer your letter.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bulcock says her father should be responsible to pay the state money owed for childcare of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. Bob Bulcock says he took care of Jessica for 6 years and should not be held responsible for the money.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bulcock.
He told me to, if I would get the amount due that he had received, he would pay for that. He would reimburse that amount.
Did you ever say that to him, sir?
No, ma'am, I never did. I have a copy of the letter that I sent to my attorney.
Can I see the copy of the letter
in response
that you sent?
to the letter that he had hand-delivered to her.
Let me tell you, I've seen this. I saw this letter. Have you seen this letter?
No, I've not.
Let me show it to you, sir. Evidently, there was some sort of a miscommunication. He said his concern was that they were asking her for more money than the child actually received from AFDC, and that the conversations that he had had with both you and his attorney dealt with the fact that he didn't understand why they were seeking more from his daughter than his granddaughter actually received from the state. All right. Listen to me very carefully, Ms. Bulcock. How old are you?
27.
You made a baby, right?
Yes.
You made a baby at a time that you had no right to make a baby. That you weren't prepared to take care of a baby. But for the fact that your parents took your daughter out of foster care and agreed to become foster parents to this child, there is a very strong probability, based on the fact that this child was out of your care, that your social worker was absolutely correct, that the state would have moved in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights and free the child for adoption. There is no question about that. And you are an intelligent young woman, and you know that. Your daughter is now 7?
She's 9.
9. And how long has she been in your care?
2.5 years.
So for the first 7 years of her life, you supported her with nothing.
I gave her love and emotional support, which is more than they gave her.
No. She was in foster care for a year, which means some strangers gave her love and affection, and then she lived with your mother and father, who were up with her during the night, who wiped her nose when she got sick, If she got an upset stomach, they took care of
Your
her.
Honor, I'm
You were
sorry.
living there?
I'm sorry, Your Honor. Yes, I did live there for a couple months.
I'm not talking about a couple of months, madam. How long did your daughter live with your parents?
I don't remember the exact years. She lived with her for a number of years. But why did I end up pregnant at 17? The emotional and physical abuse in that home is unimaginable.
You better stop blaming other.
Bad.
Listen to me. You better stop blaming other people for your life's travails, madam.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Your father didn't make you pregnant. There are lots of ways to get away from a bad situation. Having a baby is not one of them. There are other avenues. To make a long story short, what the state is now asking you for is $2,000. And they're saying, over the years, the state of California has probably spent $150,000 in foster care payments and administrative fees for your daughter. We're not seeking to recoup that from you now that you're back on your feet. We're seeking to recoup $2,000 from you. That doesn't sound like a lot if you make a baby. $2,000 over 9 years doesn't keep a child in shoes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Bocock, get your act together. Stop blaming everybody else for your troubles. I mean, your lawyer may think that somebody else is responsible for your troubles. Comes a point, you're 27 years old. You're responsible for your own troubles. And you can work out some sort of a system with the state to take care of this $2,000 that you owe them.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have paperwork. Last week, I received papers that they were going to garnish my wages.
Good!
Take my driver's license.
Just a second. Good.
Okay.
They
Within
can
the
garnish your wages, and then you know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation that taxpayers in this state paid for your daughter. Now, I'm not quite frankly condoning, Mr. Bocock, the fact that you didn't really have a need for the money, and yet you took money from the state to support your grandchild. And I say that because even though the law gives you the right to do that, I always felt as if you didn't have a need for that and this was your blood, you should do it yourself. But between the two of you, you've got to pay for your child. Not him. It's not his obligation. It's your obligation. So, your lawsuit against your father is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If she were so concerned about the emotional and physical well-being of her daughter, why did she move 450 miles away to be with her boyfriend who had physically abused her daughter?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else. That doesn't take a psychologist to figure out. He's been in my life for 10 years. He never beat her. My parents are lying, selfish people. Extremely selfish people. They have lied my entire life.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica? She is still with him. We don't know why.
That's all I wanted, was him to honor his word for once in his life. He has never made a promise that he's kept. He's broken promises my whole life. That's all I wanted.
Ex-wife Tracy are caught in an all-too-common war, and at the center is their 8-year-old daughter, Elizabeth. He's suing Tracy for the money he spent on a vacation she canceled.
Order. All rise. Judges number 12 on the calendar in the matter of Edwards versus Edwards.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
I must tell you that when I read these papers over, your papers over last night, I was struck by the fact that I had seen these same problems with different names on them for 20 years. Sad situation. You two folks have been married for how long?
18 years.
And have how many kids?
3.
How long ago were you divorced?
Year and a half ago.
According to your papers, Mr. Edwards, your youngest child's name is Elizabeth. How old is she?
She's 8.
And you enjoy regular visitation with her. She lives with her mother.
Very liberal visitation now.
What kind of visitation do you enjoy with her?
I have every other weekend, like
the standard rule. I also, on Mondays, I have her overnight until Tuesday when school starts. I have her 2 hours after school on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And on Wednesday, I have her until 9 o'clock.
How old are your other two children?
I have one that's 19 and one that's 17.
The 19-year-old's boy or girl?
Girl.
And who does she live with?
She lives with her mother, but she's at college, so no one gets to see her much.
And the other child's boy?
Yes.
And who does he live with?
He lives with me.
All right, why don't you tell me about this problem in your own words?
Okay. This past spring break, it was at the beginning of April. It was my ex-wife's year to have my daughter for spring break. And because of our agreement on visitation, if she has to work and Elizabeth doesn't have school, she used to bring her to me at 7 in the morning. Well, because of this, I talked to my ex-wife about it, and I said, well, since you're going to be bringing her over here every day anyway, why don't you just let her go with me and my son, my fiance, on vacation with us? And she said, yeah, that'd be fine.
And it was your regular period to have her during that spring break?
Yes, it was.
But you were going to be working?
Correct.
Okay. So that sounds like a nice thing for Elizabeth.
Right.
Go ahead.
Well, I had scheduled, we were going to go to Cancun. Elizabeth's been there before and really wanted to go. I didn't have the money. I was waiting on my tax return to come in. So we changed that to, when my tax return came in, that we were going to go down to Daniel Boone National Forest and ride our dirt bikes. My girlfriend and myself and my son, we all ride four-wheel dirt bikes. So when the tax return came in, I went and bought Elizabeth her own, and we were teaching her to ride it. When a week before we were scheduled to leave, I get a letter from my ex-wife saying she was mad, which this is what she usually does when she's upset, is cancel any special visitation I have. So I got a letter a week before we were supposed to leave. Sorry, you can't take her with you now. At this time, I'd already put deposits down on a cabin, bought the dirt bike, bought her equipment so that she wouldn't get hurt, which at her insistence made sure I had every piece there was. And I was just out a lot of money for setting up this vacation.
How much money were you out?
$1,547.47.
Elizabeth still has the dirt bike.
Yes, well, yes.
And that was included in
Yes, yes it was.
Did you lose your deposit and the equipment she still has to ride the dirt bike?
Well, I had to buy the equipment.
I know, but she still has it, and she still uses it when she rides the dirt bike.
Right.
Did you lose your deposit on the cabin,
Yes, I did.
Mr. Edwards? And how much was that?
$175.
Why don't you tell me why you think your wife changed, your former wife changed her mind about you taking Elizabeth on vacation?
She has these tendencies to go off.
Well, you must have had an argument.
Obviously.
Well, obvious. So what was the argument?
It doesn't take much.
Well, what was the argument about?
I have no clue at this point.
Well, Miss Edwards, why don't you tell me?
He told me about a week and a half before that he was planning on filing for full custody, and the idea that I gave her up for spring break, which was supposed to be mine, was going to be used against me.
Were you having an argument at the time?
Yes.
Well, why don't you tell me what the argument was about? Because Mr. Edwards doesn't appear to be a stupid man, and it would be stupid to tip your hand about a plan for a lawsuit.
Well, he does that to me a lot because he knows it upsets me, and usually it doesn't turn out to be true. But he came out to the car, and we were talking about, actually we were talking about something totally different. We were talking about a boat.
Tell me about it.
We had two boats when we got divorced, and he got the sailboat and he gave me the speedboat, and I was planning on selling it, and I had asked him if I could have the keys to it because he had told me he had the keys. And he said, I don't know what you're talking about. And at that point I got mad and I said, spring break? Oops, I don't know what you're talking about. And he got very mad and he dented my car, pounded his fist into it.
Okay, so let me go through this now. You got into an argument about property.
Correct.
You wanted to sell the speedboat. You said to him, where are the keys? He said, I don't know what you're talking about. Does that sound familiar, sir?
About the keys to the boat? Yeah, that sounds very familiar.
And so you retaliated by saying, spring break, whoops, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he retaliated and said,
it's too late. You already agreed to spring break. And didn't you know, he said, I was going to use this against you anyways because I'm filing for full custody. So I sent him a letter saying that I had reconsidered spring break and that she was going to stay with me.
Don't you both feel foolish? Huh?
A little bit.
because ultimately the one who was disappointed because you two people spoke in anger and in haste. Both of you, you too, Miss Edwards. That wasn't a nice thing to say. Whoops, spring break. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's true.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Miss Edwards, I don't know what you know about my judicial reputation. Sometimes I'm a screamer.
And later today,
I think he just buys a lot of extra stuff he doesn't need.
Men like toys.
Yes, they do. Cars, especially.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chuck Edwards is suing his ex-wife, Tracy, over money spent on a vacation that included their 8-year-old daughter.
According to your papers, Miss Edwards, you went and spoke to your lawyer.
Yes, I did.
And your lawyer is the one who said to you, you don't have to give him spring break.
He said I was under no obligation to give him spring break.
I'm going to ask you this question. You really don't have to answer it. Did your lawyer say to you, but it's the right thing to do to give him spring break?
No, he didn't. He had me discuss it with my daughter and see how she felt about it, and she didn't care either way.
Yeah, we shouldn't put kids in the middle about that either. Kids don't have an opportunity of picking their parents. Very few parents are perfect. If you're fortunate enough to have two reasonable parents in a divorce situation, you're very fortunate. Miss Edwards, I think that what Mr. Edwards retorted to you was wrong when he said, I'm going to use the fact that you let her go on spring break with me when I petitioned the court for full custody. You don't intend to do that, do you, Mr. Edwards?
No, not at this time.
Well, does Elizabeth seem happy with her mom?
She seems, for what she's gone through, she seems very well adjusted. It's amazing.
Well, then that's a credit to both of you. Sounds to me as if you're two very nice people who got into a very stupid tiff. Miss Edwards, I don't know what you know about my judicial reputation. Sometimes I'm a screamer. I find it difficult to scream at you. I think that you're a nice lady.
Thank you.
And I don't think that the canceling of this trip is hopefully indicative of the way you do business. I also, Mr. Edwards, don't think that your response to your wife when she said the wrong thing to you, which was, whoops, spring break, what's spring break, and your retort to her, I'm going to seek full custody because you were angry, was appropriate. So I think that you were both wrong. Your out-of-pocket expenses were $175. You're going to split them.
Sounds fair.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Mr. and Mrs. Edwards, I wish you good fortune. You owe him $87.50. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Ronning versus Alexandritas. Step forward.
San Diego college student Susan Ronning says she loaned her boyfriend, Jason Alexandritas, $1,500 toward a car. Now that they've split, he won't pay her back.
You know when a loan becomes a gift? When the relationship is over. Did you ever hear that?
I've never heard that one.
Nor have I.
Good, because I just made it up. You should put it on coffee mugs. Ms. Roning?
Ronning. Yes.
Ronning. You and the defendant had a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship when you were both in the Navy, according to your papers.
Correct.
Is that right? And that relationship was a little under 2 years?
Just, yes.
During that time, you say he wanted to buy a car, and you lent him how much money?
$1,500
Put that on your bank card.
on my credit card, yes.
How much after that did you break up?
Probably about 4 months.
No money.
None.
Tell me what your arrangement was about paying back the money.
The loan happened in October, and I gave him till April to be able to pay me back. And he hadn't paid me anything since then or ever since.
Did you talk to him about it?
Yes, I did. And even when we were breaking up, I asked him about it. He said, don't worry about it, I'll pay you. I'm good on the money. And I trusted him, believed him, because he's paid me before. I have loaned him money before, and he has paid me back. And so I had no problem with it. And
Why
so,
was he always in need of money?
I don't know.
Did he ever lend you money?
No, he's never lent me money. I've always been more financially stable than he has for some reason. I think he just buys a lot of extra stuff he doesn't need. Just guys, you know.
Men like toys.
Yes, they do. Cars especially.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She's like, well, you know, don't worry about it. It's close to Christmas. Meaning that it was going to be like a gift. That I told her, I said I was not going to be able to pay her back. She said...
You told her that?
Yes, ma'am.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Susan Ronning is suing her former boyfriend, Jason Alexandridis, for money she says she loaned him for a car.
What kind of car was this?
1993 Ford Explorer.
Why didn't you pay her back the money?
To back up a little bit, she needed a car. So I had a 1989 Nissan 240SX that I sold to her. She only had $5,000, and I still owed $7,500 to the bank that I borrowed through. So I'm still paying on that loan today, and I have the loan paperwork with me. I just basically, the bank released the title to her in her name and kept the $2,500 on the loan to my signature that I'm still paying on. So
she gave you the $5,000.
She gave me $5,000.
You were living together at the time.
Correct.
Okay. You didn't make a gift of the car to her.
No.
And you were living together.
Correct.
So, let's go on with the story.
I was getting to the point. Anyway, so the leftover that I was still paying on was just kind of, you know, that was the limit of her money, so I just told her I would just, that was it, pay on the rest. Because I owed $2,506 extra, okay? So later down the line when I needed...
You had another car.
Right, I needed to buy another car months later.
No, but you had another car when you sold her this car.
No.
So you were both using this car when you were living together?
Yeah, for a few months, period.
So for the few months, you sold her your car, she paid you for it, and the two of you together only had one car.
Right, but she...
Just a second, you have to think about where he's going and think about whether he's hurting you or not by this story.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong?
Then you needed a car.
I needed a car, so we went looking for cars together. She went with me. And we went to the Ford dealership, and we found the Explorer that I wanted. Now, I only had $1,500 down payment of my own money, and we needed $3,000, okay? And I financed the Explorer through my own lender, private bank. Susan gave me $1,500 from her.
Well, tell me how that came about, sir. You went looking for the Explorer, you went into the store, you had a salesman, he came over, he showed you this car. Let me hear how it happened.
Well, we just took it for a test drive.
Yes.
We liked it. And Susan and I had the conversation there at the dealership when they were gathering paperwork. I said, well, I don't have, you know, they were trying to make the deal. And she wanted to...
Tell me about the conversation. Now we're getting to it.
Okay. The conversation was, I don't have $3,000 when they came with the deal. I only have $1,500. And she said that if I needed it, she would give it to me, $1,500. And I said, are you sure? Because I'm still paying on the extra from the 240, you know. I'm still paying that $64.93 a month for that. And I'm not, you know, I just don't have the $1,500. She's like, well, you know, don't worry about it. It's close to Christmas. You know, we'll get through it. And that was the arrangement.
Close to Christmas, we'll get through what?
Well, meaning that it was going to be like a gift. That I told her, I said I was not going to be able to pay her back, you know, and she said...
You told her that sitting there?
Sitting there.
Sitting right there, you told her that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that true?
That's absolutely not true.
Well, tell me your recollection of what happened.
Okay, when we were sitting at the dealership, he needed the $1,500. He only had $1,500. He asked that I loan him the $1,500.
What did he say?
He said, remember the last times that you've loaned me money, I've paid you back. I've been good about paying you back. I said, yeah. This is a lot of money, though. He says, well, I've been good about the money. I promise to pay you back. I will pay you back. And I said, well, if you want this car and you want to make this transaction, I don't mind doing it as long as you pay me back. And he agreed to that. He said, fine, I'll pay you back.
I think probably somewhere in the middle of both of these stories lies the truth. Because quite frankly, it just doesn't sit well with me for two people who are living together, and I assume planning a future together if you're living together, to have that kind of in-depth discussion. For instance, you were so good about it in the past, you paid me money, I've lent you money, then you paid me back, and so I'm going to do this again. Somehow that doesn't sit right with me, nor does it sit right with me, sir, it's coming up towards Christmas and consider it a Christmas gift. Do you understand? So somewhere right in the middle of this is the accurate rendition. Now, when for the first time did you ask him back for the money?
I asked him in April. I talked to him before when we broke up, because we broke up before April, if he would pay me back. He said he would.
When did you break up?
We broke up in January.
Had you both decided that it wasn't a good relationship?
There's been other, he's kind of abusive and a little, he's very angry, he's an angry person. So I broke up with him.
Okay, you broke up in January.
Yes.
And you were paying your bank card all this time?
Yes, I'm paying my bank card. I had money on it already, and so I had interest accumulating. And so I still haven't been able to pay everything off because I'm still going to school. I'm a student at San Diego State, and I'm taking loans out. I've taken financial aid. There's no way I can give anybody money.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I was in the Navy for 4 years.
What are you doing now?
I'm still in the Navy now. It's my last week. I'm actually checking out of the Navy this week.
How much is the interest that you've paid so far?
I called the bank and I asked him. It's $325 accumulated with no payments.
So it's a little less than what you're suing for. You were suing for $2,000. So
Yes, just to make
that.
sure it would cover. That's my advisor said just to do that.
So, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
You owe the money?
I don't believe so. But I'm not sitting up there, so here I am.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Listen, she purchased a car from you, even when you were together. You had payments on that car. Through love and affection, you could have said to her, listen, don't pay me any money for the car. I want you to have it because I want you to have a safe car to drive. You didn't do that.
I couldn't afford to do that.
Well, she says she goes to school. She can't afford to make you a gift of $1,500. You knew she was going to school, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you couldn't afford to do it, and she can't afford to do it. So she purchased a car from you. She had money saved up, I assume. I mean, who knows whether you could have gone out and sold that car for any more if you sold it privately. It's very possible that you couldn't have, that was really a fair market price for the car at the time you sold it to her. In any event, she paid you, you didn't pay her. That doesn't sound fair to me. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,825. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
We had spent, a couple years together. It was just time to, we were just not ready for that intense of a commitment, I don't think, at our age.
He's very angry person. He's been an angry person as he was a child, and he always brought that up.
I lost, so I can just take it and, and live and learn and move on.
Yeah, this is case number 292 on the calendar in the matter of Burge versus Burge. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, sir.
Mr. Burge, you claim that your soon-to-be ex-wife, who was the defendant in this case, destroyed or threw away some irreplaceable memorabilia of yours after you were out of the house. You place a dollar value on that memorabilia at $5,000. She says that you were an abusive drunk who hit her, left the house, disappeared for months. She had no idea where you were, and ultimately got fed up with storing this stuff and just got rid of it. Correct?
That is correct.
So, how long were you married to each other, actually living together?
On and off for close to 3 years, give or take. We were only married right at 4 months, though, when I left.
And I gather you were living with the defendant's father.
That is correct.
All right, sir, tell me about your departure from the house.
The evening that I left, I was quite intoxicated, if you'll bear with me. This is the first time I've seen Michelle since the evening that I've left, and I still haven't really gotten over her, but the night that I left, I did become intoxicated. I went back to her father's mobile home, whereas we had another argument, and I was intoxicated enough that I don't recall whether or not she hit me and knocked me down or she shoved me and knocked me down. At that time, I got up, I slapped her, and I left, and I never went back. That was my understanding with her. I had told her if I ever raised my hand to her that I would leave. And that was the only time, Your Honor, that I had ever raised my hand to her.
So you left.
Yes, ma'am.
And how long were you gone before you made a request for this property that you say you left behind?
It was about 2 months.
And how did you make that request for the property?
By telephone originally?
Talking directly to her?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what property did you leave behind, sir?
I left my clothing, camping equipment, fishing equipment, some tools, an awful lot of books, memorabilia, my son's photographs from when he was a child, and I requested if I paid UPS prepaid, would she box these items up and send them to me? And at that time, I never really got a response from her.
Well, did she tell you that she had already disposed of all the stuff?
Not at that particular time, no.
Where were you for those 2 months, sir?
I was working, living in a little town called Antioch. I was living with my sister, and I was working, pumping gas.
Why didn't you call the very next week and make arrangements to pick up your stuff?
The emotional situation is that I had been fairly mentally abused by her on a number of occasions. As a matter of fact, there were times that I spent as many days in my van living there. This is my secure area. After an argument, you have to excuse me.
Do you have a drinking problem, Mr. Burge?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Has it been a long-standing problem with alcohol?
Yes, ma'am. Although this was one of the reasons I believe that Michelle had asked me to move in with her father. He also has a drinking problem, and he needed a drinking buddy.
Were you drinking all during the 3-year relationship with Michelle?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Michelle.
Yes.
Why don't you first tell me your version of what happened on the night that your husband left?
He was supposed to meet me that evening, and we were going, my son and him and I were going to go to MGM Adventure Park. He never came home. He never showed or called. And so when I returned from the park, because I went ahead and went, I found him at a casino in town, saw his van parked in the garage, and I went in and we looked for him, my son and I both. He wasn't there. So we went on home, and there he sat on the ground, very intoxicated, and laughing. And I said, thanks a lot for showing up for us. And I did push him on the shoulder, and he fell back. But I proceeded to walk down the hall and out, and he came after me, and he hit me with a fist, closed fist, like a man would hit a man. And it spun my head around. And I couldn't close my jaw for 7 days thereafter. At that point, we called the police. I was yelling, Dad, he's hitting me. Help me. He came out of the bedroom, and the police were called. At this point, Glenn tried to take my car and leave because his van was obviously still parked at the casino. And I pulled him out of the car. And I recovered my car. At that point, he walked down the street, got a neighbor to take him back to his van at the casino, and I never saw him again or heard from him.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I even went into rehab for 3 days.
But didn't work.
Well, after being out of rehab for 3 or 4 days, Michelle would make me a cocktail.
And later today,
I wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for you, Susie. And every time I do something for you, this is the way I get it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 52-year-old engineer Glenn Burge is suing his soon-to-be ex-wife Michelle, claiming she threw away precious photos and memorabilia of his son.
What had you done with all of his belongings?
Put him in an unlocked shed outside of our mobile home, which meant he had access at any time, day or night.
Ultimately, what did you do with them?
We left him there for which I have receipts from the Salvation Army until March 6th of '97.
And then they came and took all the stuff?
Yes.
What about his pictures and that sort of stuff?
They took it all. It was thrown in garbage bags and boxes and kind of...
And it had been 3 months that you hadn't heard from him, according to you?
Not at all. I contacted his aunts and uncles, which I had his address book, so I went through it and found some. Took a chance that he might be, and he was. He had been there. And so they kind of directed me to an address and a phone number.
So who called him? Did you call him?
Yes.
And what did you say when you called him?
I didn't reach him. I reached the relatives. Yes, Glenn was here. He stayed a few days and left.
So you never really reached him?
No, but he got the message, so he called back.
And when he called you, you still had the property?
Yes, we did.
So what was the conversation?
It was, hi, how are you doing? I can't live in Las Vegas anymore. The drinking's too available, and I would like you to come live here with me. And I don't really remember if the property really was mentioned at that time.
But then there came a time when you did call Salvation Army.
Yes.
Now, how much time passed between this first conversation that you had with him and the time that you actually disposed of the property?
Approximately 1 month later.
And why did you dispose of it at that time?
Because I received a letter from Glenn saying that he would be there on a Saturday and pick up his things. And I agreed, fine, we'll meet you here Saturday, and he never showed.
Do you have that letter?
No, that was no, I don't.
Do you remember writing a letter to her?
No, ma'am, there was never a letter written.
My father remembers this, Your Honor.
I believe you.
Okay.
I believe that maybe you don't remember, sir. Mrs. Burge, I gather from your husband that you knew that he had a drinking problem at the time that you married him, because you were together for 3 years before you married him.
Yes, I did.
Why would you
I
do
didn't
that?
know it was to that extent at that point.
But you knew he had a drinking problem.
Yes, and he had said he was going to work on that, and I had hoped he would.
You know, I get the sense from looking at both of you and from listening to you, sir, that you still have some very strong feelings for her.
Yes, I do. I did since the first day that I ever met the lady.
And I also have a sense that but for his drinking problem, you feel strongly about him.
We did. We had a very, very close relationship, and it was good when. It was good when it was.
It was good when it was good. Good. Mr. Burge, what have you done, if anything, to deal with this problem that you have?
I haven't had a drink, Your Honor, in almost 3 months. During the course, if I may add, during the course of our relationship, towards the ending of it, I even went into rehab for 3 days.
But didn't work.
Well, after being out of rehab for 3 or 4 days, Michelle would make me a cocktail.
You have to understand, Miss Burge, the nature of the illness. You know,
Yes.
you can't treat it as if it's a thing that you can turn on and turn off. Sometimes you don't understand that. You believe that he hasn't had a drink? Looks pretty straight to me.
It's possible.
If he did enter a period of sobriety in his life, would you be interested in trying to save your marriage?
I'm not certain because he did hit me, and it wasn't the first time. He had tried to hit me before, but he
Well, that was
wasn't
only when he was
successful.
drunk?
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you. I mean, nobody should live in an abusive kind of relationship.
No. Yeah.
But he did leave.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, because I think he felt terrible that he did that.
And the police were on the way.
He probably was too drunk to even understand that.
Think so?
Mr. Burge, Your lawsuit is a relatively simple one, sir. She doesn't have to store your property. She hadn't heard from you for many months. I do believe that you did make arrangements to go and pick up the property, and that she didn't show up, and she got fed up and ultimately said, just get the stuff and any recollection of this man out of my life because I don't want to deal with him anymore.
If I may, I also have phone records stating, or actually physically showing, that I have been in contact with her since December, January, February. And
She says that. She says that you had
right.
been.
And in February, I'd also sent her a dozen long-stem roses to her job. I was trying to keep this relationship going as long as I could possibly because of the feelings.
Then you wouldn't want to be punitive, Mr. Burge.
Right.
And you did, in fact, hit her, and I believe that you hit her. Whether you realized it at the time or not, it was more than a slap. So you're going to have to live with the fact that because you have a drinking problem, you did certain things that were really the antithesis of good behavior for any human being to another.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Certainly get the sense from the two of you that neither one of you is prepared to totally throw in the towel. Maybe you can ditch Dad for an hour and go out and have a cup of coffee.
And later today,
You using me is over with. It's
Okay.
over with.
Okay, no problem.
That's it, Susie. That's it.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Glenn Burge wants his estranged wife, Michelle, to pay for the loss of photos and memorabilia of his son. Michelle says she held on to his belongings for 6 months.
I don't think she's a bad person, sir.
She's not.
Okay. So then we really shouldn't be here today, other than perhaps for you to see her, because you said it's the first time that you've seen her since you left.
Yes, ma'am.
You certainly get the sense from the two of you that neither one of you is prepared to totally throw in the towel. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Pardon me, sir. Maybe you can ditch Dad for an hour and go out and have a cup of coffee or breakfast and just talk. Is that a possibility?
If she's willing.
You willing?
I don't know, Your Honor.
Well, you see about it, Miss Burge. If your husband, who I clearly believe you have some feelings for, still. No or yes?
No, I would say no.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Just too much has happened.
I can understand that. I can understand that. Mr. Burge, you may have to try a little harder, sir. She's vacillating a little bit, so you may have to try. Maybe 3 months isn't enough. In any event, I'm not entertaining a claim for $5,000, sir. I am dismissing your lawsuit. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
Parties on Bishop versus Baum. Step forward, please.
35-year-old Lori Bishop is suing her former girlfriend, Ingeborg Baum, for the cost of a parking ticket. Ingeborg says it's not her fault she got the ticket and refuses to pay for it.
This was your friend. She asked you to do her a favor and drive her downtown because your daughter was in jail?
Yeah.
And you didn't have a car?
No.
So you did her a favor, drove her downtown, parked your car where you shouldn't have.
Well, not really where I shouldn't have. We parked the car. We stayed there. We tried to find out where Renati was going to be. And
Renati
how
is
long
your daughter?
Yes.
Find out how long it was going to be before she got released. Well, we'd been there probably about 3 hours, and we got back to the car, and Susie says, "What is that on your windshield?" And I says, "It can't be a ticket because I can park here. I parked here before. I know we can park here." So we went and got something to eat. We came back, and we parked across where in this little complex. And it said, "No parking, towaway zone." I'm like, I don't feel good about this. So when we started our trip out, I told her that I'd pay for the gas. I mean, she has to pay for the gas, but I'd give her the ride. So we got to the gas station, and her ATM card wouldn't work. So I put $20 in my car, and then I got $20 for us to eat because we weren't sure how long it was going to be for us, before we got back.
You parked your car where you shouldn't have parked your car, Miss Bishop.
Right. Well, I did. Well, it was the sign said parking this way, no parking this way, right there.
What is that? Just a second. What does that have to do with her?
Well, I wouldn't have been there if it wouldn't have been for her.
That's what she keeps saying, and
I
told
wouldn't have been
her-
there. I did her a favor. I've done a lot for this lady. You know,
Miss
a
Bishop,
lot.
listen to me. Your argument is that but for the fact that you were doing her a favor, you wouldn't have had your car down in that location and you wouldn't have gotten a ticket.
Right.
And therefore, she is responsible for the ticket.
Right.
Let's say you were driving with her to pick up her daughter and you were speeding.
Right.
And
No,
you
I
got a
wouldn't hold her
speed, just a
responsible.
second, and you got a speeding ticket. Who would be responsible for that
No, it
speed?
wouldn't be.
Shh. Who would be responsible?
I would be.
Because you did the wrong thing.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now, you try to explain to me how it's different parking where you weren't supposed to be parking and speeding.
Well, because she didn't have the money to pay where we could park, where it wasn't going to cost us any money. I mean, where it wasn't going to cause me any harm. She didn't have the money. She didn't have any money when we went.
But then when you parked there under the tunnel, I asked you, can
and
you
I could
park here?
Right, and I could because I did before.
So I asked you.
Just a second. So you said you've parked there before and you didn't get a ticket.
Right.
This time you did.
Right.
Pay it.
Okay. Well, what about the money that I took $40 to eat on for the parking, to finally pay the $5 for the parking and stuff. What about that?
Just a second.
I mean, when I called up her
Miss
one day,
Bishop, I think she's responsible for those out-of-pocket expenses. The gas, right?
Yeah.
You've paid $5 to park the car after you moved the car when you got a ticket? Were you with her when she moved the car?
Yes.
And she paid $5 for that?
Yes.
You think you're responsible for that?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I agree with you. That's $25. And if you think that you were wrongfully given a ticket,
right,
then you have to go argue that to the Parking Violations Bureau. You go before a hearing examiner and tell them your story. But you parked your car in the wrong place. You got a ticket.
Right.
You have to pay for it.
Well, okay.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $25.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
That's not right, Susie. That's not right. Okay?
I
wouldn't have
you,
been
can
there.
you
I wouldn't
park
have
there?
been there if it wasn't for you, Susie. And every time I do something for you, this is the way I get it. I mean, what about the $100? I had to get it from her.
Yes, I will
Pay for the gas. What about everything else, Susie? So
But
I'm just
that's
stuck with the
not
ticket. Well, I have nothing to say to you after
I
this
don't
point.
either.
Even though I was a friend enough and took my whole day away to take you down there, you can't help me out by paying
never
half
mind.
the ticket? Walk off, Susie. Just walk off.
Robert Campbell says during a night of drinking and partying, his former friend Augie Nalepsky broke the passenger window in his van.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 317 on the calendar in the matter of Campbell versus Nalepsky. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, ma'am. Have a seat.
You allege, sir, that the defendant kicked a window out of the back of your truck or car. Is that right?
Yes.
And it cost you a couple $100 to have it fixed.
Yes, it did.
Why don't you tell me how that happened?
Well, first we started off at my friend's house, and we were going to go to the club that night.
Who's we?
Aggie, the defendant, and I, and Patty. We decided to go to the club, and she started off by drinking
Who's she?
The defendant, a Boone's Hill farm.
What is
and,
that?
I don't know, Strawberry Boone's Hill.
Wine.
It's a wine. And then after that, we got in the car, and we drove to Club X, which is in the city, about 45 minutes away. And we got there, and the defendant, started drinking. She drank a cranberry and vodka when we got there. And then we went out and started dancing, Patty and I, and Aggie was there drinking. The defendant was there drinking, standing there. After that, we went back after we stopped dancing, and we came over, and Aggie said she wanted to leave. And I asked her why. And she said, I just want to leave. So I told her, I was like, if I buy you another drink, you're going to stay? And so I gave her some money, and she went and bought a Hurricane.
What's a Hurricane?
It's mixed with like 5 or 6 different drinks.
Like, it's mixed with gin, 151.
What's 150?
Rum.
Rum. And after that, me and Patty went back to dance again, and Aggie went and sat down and started talking to this guy. And I guess she was drinking then, too. She drank a beer or so. I don't know what else she drank, because I wasn't there. I was out there dancing, but I saw her drink a beer. And then after that, we went, after about 20 minutes, we stopped dancing. We came out, and we seen that she was just sitting there. And so after that, we just left. We all left. We got in my car, and we started...
The three of you?
The three of us got in the car. I helped her to the car, actually. And when we were driving on the freeway, she says she's hot. So me and Patty, the witness, rolled down the windows, and she was still hot. So she was trying to open the back window. And
What kind of car do you have?
It's an Astro van. I have a picture of
So it has a
van.
back pole window?
It has a side window. And then she proceeds to put her feet on the window to try to open it. And I'm asking the defendant, what is she doing? And by this point, she's pressing on the window very, very hard. And I look back, and as she's doing that, pressing on the window with her feet, like bench pressing it, it breaks. And I went like this, and it was a loud sound, a very loud sound. And I'm all, Aggie, what did you do? And then after that, we drove back to Concord, and as on the way, there was glass all in the car. And I told Aggie more than, I say, 6 times to get out of the glass and stop playing with it, because she was playing with it with her hands. That's how intoxicated she was. And I told her to get out of the, out of the glass. And she passed out on the seat. So when we got back to Concord, she was telling me, I'm sorry. And I didn't yell, I didn't do anything, because I do that to some people, but we were best friends. So I didn't really understand why she did it, because there was no reason for her to do it.
She did it, according to you, because she was drunk.
Yeah.
So you don't have to understand what happened. Mm-hmm. According to what the menu of alcohol that she imbibed during the course of that evening, she didn't know whether she was in the back of your car or in the Concorde. Mm-hmm. So how much did this window cost you?
$206, and here's the receipt right here.
All right, Aggie, let's hear your end of it.
Well, Your Honor, just to put it blatantly, he did not see me do it. She did not see me do it. They did not hear me kick the window open. As far as I'm concerned, when the window shattered inside of the car, like he said, when you kick out a window, where does the glass go? It goes outside. There was bits of pieces
Let's start out with the hurricane.
Sure. Not a problem.
How old are you?
21. At least I was the only one that was 21 drinking.
Yes, I didn't know.
21.
Mm-hmm.
You know how stupid women look when they get drunk?
Sure.
Do you have any idea of who are you?
I'm her mother.
Well, I'm sure your mother has told you. If she hasn't, she should have. You know, there's nothing more disgusting than a sloppy woman drunk. Sometimes I think sloppier than a man, but maybe that's just because I'm a woman. And if you're 21 years old, and you have therefore a license to drink, doesn't mean you have to make a fool of yourself. Now, you were pretty sick. I read your papers. I mean, you felt pretty uncomfortable that evening after you had had so much to drink. Why did you drink until you felt sick?
Why?
Why?
We were all drinking.
I didn't ask her. Listen, I don't care about them.
Okay.
Why did you drink?
Why did I drink?
Until you got
I didn't get
blotto.
sick. I didn't get sick. I did not get sick. We were drinking through the whole... We started drinking earlier when we went to Patty's house. We had a shot of E&J. Then we proceeded to go to another party.
I was not at Patty's house.
And then, well, no, you weren't there, but we drove to your house. And then we went to another
You
party.
weren't
Now
even at
sit
my
here and
house.
tell me there are so many people there.
I did not feel too well at the time. That's what you wrote in your answer.
That's right. I didn't feel well, but that doesn't mean that I was to the point where I would kick out somebody's window, causing no scrapes or anything on my leg.
All right.
There was no cause for me to do that. I tried to open the window, but there was no way I could open it because this window was off track in the first place.
It was not off track.
I had my legs propped up
next
to the window. Next to the window. So I could be more comfortable. The next thing I recall is glass shattering, flying inside the car. Let me see the bill. Were you there when your daughter got home?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Now step up here. Tell me your name.
Danuta.
Does your daughter come home intoxicated often?
No.
But this isn't the first time.
Not first.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young.
And later today,
You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Robert Campbell claims his former friend Augie Nalepsky was highly intoxicated when she broke the window in his van and wants her to pay for it. Augie denies breaking the window.
Aggie, you're going to do what you want to do. You know, when you're 21 years old, you're dumb and you do things that are stupid with alcohol. I don't know why people do that when they're young. But I'm going to tell you this. Aside from looking terrible when you're 21 years old or when you're 20 years old or when you're 51 years old and you've had too much to drink, you were lucky this time that all you caused was a little damage to his car. I'm not going to play Sherlock Holmes. You're in that car. You're in the back of the car. You got your legs propped up against the glass. You're drunk. The window shatters. I don't need proof beyond a reasonable doubt that you're the one who caused it. All I need here is some evidence more than not that you caused the damage to the car. And I find that you did. So you owe him $206. Judgment for the plaintiff. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, this is our excuse. You may step out.
No problem.
You got the benefit to your right.
And now the next case.
Party's on Floyd versus Kleiman. Step forward, please.
Disc jockey Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman stole his watch and broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco.
Mr. Floyd, you're a DJ.
Yes, ma'am.
You do that full-time, sir?
No, ma'am.
What do you do full-time?
I'm an office manager.
But Saturday nights or Sunday, you go and operate one of those machines that you have at parties and play music.
Sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. Mr. Plyman, you, sir, are a party planner.
That's correct.
And according to your complaint, sir, you are suing the defendant for breach of contract. You say that you had a contract to perform your services as a DJ for him, and he canceled that contract. So tell me about it.
Yes, ma'am. We had an agreement to do, I was the head DJ. There would be one other DJ.
Incorrect. Mr. Plyman, let's understand the ground rules.
Okay.
He talks, then you talk.
All right.
Then I decide. Go.
I was the head DJ. That's what we had decided. We had sat down while he was planning this event. It was called Detour at this other club, and there was another DJ who would DJ on the one Sunday a month that I would not make it. And we had
That's incorrect. He only DJ'd the first 4 out of 12 detours, so he wasn't DJing 3 out of 4 weeks.
Mr. Plyman, what word didn't you understand that I said before?
All right.
He talks, then you talk, then I decide. So don't interrupt again.
All right.
Good. How many, what's the word, gig?
Gig.
That would be good.
That would be good?
Yeah.
We're in agreement.
My children would be proud of me.
We're in agreement there.
How many gigs do you claim you contracted for with the defendant?
May I look? I have a list of them. I don't know them off. There were so many. It was over like a 5-month period.
Well, you're not suing for the whole 5 months.
I'm suing for the ones that were canceled.
How many did you actually perform?
I think it was about a month or two.
4.
He has a problem. He really doesn't understand. I'm not going to penalize him because there must be a screw loose or something.
I agree. Well, I've got the exact figure. It's 4. It's a very simple question.
You'll tell me that in a minute, but right now, you see, I was focused on him, Mr. Plyman. Mr. Floyd, do you have a written contract with him?
No, ma'am, we don't.
Well, if you were going to have an employment contract that went beyond, say, a month or 2, it would seem to me that if you are in this business as a profession, even if it's a part-time profession, that you have something in writing. Wouldn't that sound right to you?
Yes, ma'am. Normally I do.
Yes.
But Denny was my best friend, and I was helping him get a business started.
Right.
And I didn't feel that I needed that, but I do have from my date book that he and I sat down and booked these dates.
Yes.
So that's the only actual evidence that I have, and I'm just hoping that he will feel the need to tell the truth.
Well, when you sat down and booked the events with him, what kind of parties were these, by the way, that you were booking?
They're tea dances, which is a dance on Sunday afternoon. It's disco music. We do it at a country western bar, but once a week we do a regular disco fun music, not country music.
And it's called a tea dance.
It's called a tea dance. It's on Sunday afternoons. It
No
starts
booze.
at 5 o'clock. No, yeah, there's plenty of booze.
Oh, so why do they call it a tea dance?
That's the name for the booze.
I can tell you why.
Yes.
It goes back a long time, about 20 years ago. People used to get together on a Sunday, and they would dish other people, or tell the tea, gossip. And that's where it
that I
goes.
understand.
Right.
That's where...
Okay.
After they've been to the beach all day, or who was with whoever the night before, and
Okay,
things
I got
along
you.
that
So
line.
That's where the name the tea dance came from, and it escalated into where they'd have a DJ and there'd be dancing and people would have to be having fun.
Sounds like fun.
It is.
Now, you were running these things, so you were like a promoter.
That's correct. It's my production.
And I assume that you will agree, Mr. Plyman, that at the beginning, when you set up this process, you did in fact sit down with Mr. Floyd. You were good friends.
We were.
And say, we're going to do these for 6 months.
That's right.
And these are the Sundays. Is that right?
That's correct. And it's one thing that's important to show is he's been paid for every service that he has performed.
I don't think that he's questioning that.
Okay.
Is that right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
You were paid each time that you went.
Exactly.
How much were you paid, by the way?
Sometimes was $200, sometimes $230, sometimes $220.
Well, actually, that's the only thing we do have an agreement on. We sat down and did make a written agreement on that, and what we paid him was $235, and I've got a copy of that.
Can I see that, please?
What that included was his services, and then I paid for him to take the Amtrak down to San Diego and back, and then I either paid for his lodging or he stayed at my home.
Now, is this a writing that you entered into? Just take a look at it.
That would be our agreement that we based on what we said. One of the other things that's important is he said in his opening that he was the head DJ. That's in his mind.
Would you look at that, sir? I asked you a question. Mr. Plyman doesn't know where he is. I'm going to remind him of that in a minute.
No, ma'am. This is not.
Michael,
Just
this
a
was
second.
made up
Mr.
afterwards,
Plyman,
obviously.
you never saw that before?
No.
That's a lie. We agreed to that.
Well,
that was
just
your
a
payment.
second. Mr. Plyman, if you talk to him again, sir, I'm going to end this lawsuit. And so far you're winning, but you're coming so close to losing because you don't know when to shut up that it's really very sad because a trial is supposed to be a search for the truth. When a litigant who seems to be winning keeps shooting himself in the foot and yet appears to be an intelligent man, I don't understand that.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Mr. Plyman, I'm going to give you some really good advice, sir. When you try to take over Judge's playpen, you're always going to lose.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. DJ Michael Floyd says party planner Denny Plyman broke their agreement for Michael to DJ at a gay disco. Denny claims he had every right to fire Michael and owes him nothing.
Mr. Plyman, one of the problems with this, sir, is I'm going to tell you what that is. I'm not going to consider it. He says he's never seen it before. And if, in fact, this was your agreement and you're a businessman, what you should have done was you sign it and have him sign it.
I understand that.
But, Mr. Floyd, do you have any proof of any engagements that you actually turned down at or about the time that your agreement, not contract, but agreement with the defendant was terminated?
Do I have any proof?
Yes.
Not with me, Your Honor. I had turned down San Diego Gay Pride because he told me that I was going to work for him for 2 events that he was doing. He was doing 4, I think, and I was going to do 2 of them.
I had offered, when we first had our disagreement, he brought up the idea that, you know, as somewhat of a severance pay, that I pay him $200 to afford him like 2 weeks down the road. He had a date. And me being a new businessman, a small businessman, I thought, you know what, I really want to do the right thing here. So I thought about it a couple days, and then I called him back, and I said, you know, I would be happy to send you that $200, but I asked one thing. I said, I'm going to need you to sign an agreement. I finally clicked in and understood that I probably should have an agreement at this point in time, that this will be the end of our, I put the payment of $200 in two $200 increments will be paid by May 31st and is provided as a goodwill gesture by Denny Plyman, owner of Focus Events. This payment will finalize our working relationship and any monies due of this date. And it's at that point that he got all pissed off. Like I didn't trust him because I felt like he would take me to court or something, and he wouldn't sign that. Now, he never saw this, but I read it to him over the phone because I was going to send it to him, have him sign it, and send it back to me, and then I would have sent him the money.
That's also not entirely true, Your Honor.
Well, not entirely true, but did you call and discuss with him some sort of solution to this problem?
I attempted, he never did. I attempted on several occasions to call him. At that point,
how you could say I didn't attempt to make a solution is incredible. I have it written right here.
That's not proof. That could have been written at any time.
Mr. Floyd, he did in fact offer you a couple of $100s to resolve this issue.
Yes,
and
at
he
his
did
suggestion.
And he did. You seem like a nice person. How a nice person can keep tasting their own foot, I'll never understand. I'll never understand.
This is an indication of our relationship through the whole time. It was
Mr.
anytime
Floyd,
I tried to
then
put something
then
in.
that's your problem, sir. I mean, you know, you chose to work for him.
I'm one of the top DJs in Southern California.
How could you be a top DJ in Southern California, Mr. Floyd?
I'm sorry?
In his own mind, Your Honor.
Oh, Mr. Plyman, I tried to be very nice to you, sir. The truth of the matter is, you're your own worst enemy.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
He's suing you for $2,500? Is that what you're suing him for?
Yes, ma'am.
$2,500? I was originally going to give you nothing. He helped me. I'm going to give you $1,000. That takes care of 5 weeks' worth of work.
Thank you.
Do you understand? That's all.
I just excuse you. May step out. Out the back door to your right.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
That's all I wanted. I wanted the truth to come out, and once again, his mouth got him in trouble.
I had other DJs that I worked with also. You weren't the only game in town.
I was the only DJ other than John that you ever used at that T-dance.
That's incorrect. Since then, I've used 5 other DJs.
Yeah, because you fired me. Who did you use before me?
I'm glad. I hope I never have to see him again.
In the face by Maria Soria's dog, Pebbles, and is suing for the medical bills.
Order. All rise. Quiet in the courtroom, please. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 327 on the calendar in the matter of Matar versus Soria. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated. Have a seat.
You pronounce your name Matar?
Matar, yes.
Miss Matar, this is your little girl?
Yes.
And according to your complaint, she was playing at a friend's house with your children.
Yes.
And that, unfortunately, she was bitten by your dog.
Yes.
This dog. And you seek reimbursement for your medical bills.
Yes, please.
There is no dispute that your dog bit her and scratched her, is that right?
Right, there's no dispute as to that, no.
Well, then why don't you tell me why you don't believe you're responsible for the child's medical bills?
First of all, Your Honor, my dog, he's really good. He always has a problem with sensitive ears. And when the children started coming over, you know, I make sure, and I told him, you know, the dog is fine, just don't pull his ears. Because he'll react. He reacts to adults, he reacts to us. It's a problem that he's had since he was a puppy. He's now 6 years old.
Okay, so that I found interesting in your answer. You said that the dog has had a problem with his ears since he was a puppy. Tell me what kind of problem.
You know, it's really hard for me to tell you. I taken him to the vet, and he says, well, he just has sensitive ears. There's nothing wrong with him inside that he can see that's physical. It's just a sensitivity that he has.
Well, what has the dog done?
he hasn't done anything to anybody before. What he's done, and my daughter can probably show you, is if you grab his ears and try to extend them, he tries to move, you know, kind of bite off your hand off his ears.
So he tries to bite off your hand to let...
Because he is not comfortable with that. And that was something that I explained to the children, not only when they first started visiting, but every single time that they went to play with the dog. I said, you can play with him, you can pet him anywhere you want, just don't pull his ears. He's fine if you just, you know, touch him down, but if you extend him, he has a problem with that.
Hi. Hi. Veronica, can you tell me about the day that you went and played in the house where that dog was?
First, I went to my friend Christy's house.
Is that their house? How old is Christy?
8. 8.
And how old are you?
8.
Okay, sit still, okay? So you went to play at the house, and what happened?
I pet the dog and he bit me.
Where did you pet him?
On the head.
Did you pull his ears? You sure? You just went to pet him. Had you played with the dog before? Dog never bit you before. Where were you bitten, Veronica?
Over here and that.
Right over here where that mark is? Did it hurt? Did you have to go to the doctor?
The hospital.
What happened to you in the hospital?
The doctor put me some stitches.
Do you know how many stitches you had? And how long ago did this happen? A while ago? You know, my eyes aren't so good anymore. So I need these glasses to really get a good look at, you know, your face, because your face is beautiful. Right? Just had that little mark on it, so let me see. Come close to me. Oh, it's going to be gorgeous. People aren't going to look at that. They're going to look at your gorgeous eyes. Right? I'm telling you. Okay. Why don't you go sit down? You feel better about going to sit down? Yes? Okay. Heard? Sure. Okay. Is there anything else you want to tell me?
It's obvious that it was in her house, it's her dog, and if she knows that he has a problem, keep him away from children. Don't give the responsibility for 8-year-old to know what she has to do.
And I understand what you're saying. The point, too, is that the responsibility of having a dog is almost, you know, the words that your husband told me was, well, what kind of people are you to have a dog? Well, I'm sorry.
Miss Soria, listen to me. You know, things get hot when you're in the middle of a dispute. I think that sometimes animals are unpredictable. And even though an animal has not done anything in the past, you never can tell when something is going to trigger some sort of aberrant behavior, like biting a child. Your dog, while you tell me that he has not bitten anybody before, clearly had a problem with his ears. Now, according to the child was not pulling his ears straight out, which is what you say causes him to act out that way. According to this little girl, that didn't happen. But clearly, someone is responsible minimally for the medical bills that these people incurred. Can I see your medical bills? Because as between this lady and you, it was within your home that this happened. So somebody is going to be financially damaged. And I'm not talking about the little mark that's on your daughter's face. That's going to go away, hopefully.
Well,
and
I have a report from a doctor that will scar forever.
Well,
she has 2 scars on her face, one on her cheek, one under her nose.
I just want to know what the bill was so far.
We paid $2,500 cash for the plastic surgeon to do her face.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know he has a problem, lock him outside.
But you know, if you had
don't ruin
a
little girl's
we didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are.
And later today,
I mean, talk about losers.
Yeah.
You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Micheline Matar's 8-year-old daughter Veronica was bitten on the face by Maria Soria's dog Pebbles and is suing for the medical bills. Maria claims she told Veronica not to touch Pebbles on her ears, but she didn't listen.
Mrs. Matar, I'm going to come to you. You seem like an intelligent lady.
Thank you.
And I'm sure that you knew that these people had a dog in their house. And an intelligent person also knows that when little children are around a dog, something can happen. Now, I'm not saying that you are responsible, but you clearly knew that they had a dog, right?
Things can happen anywhere you go.
Thank you.
Right.
That's my
That-
point too. When a dog bites somebody, regardless of where, when, and how, it usually becomes the owners of the dog's responsibility. It's almost a relativity here as to, okay, so by default, you know.
No, Miss Soria, you're missing the point, madam. The point is that you were, A, aware of the fact that your dog had a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever tell that to Mrs. Matar?
No.
Well, you see, that's a responsibility that you have. Because then Mrs. Matar would have been on notice. And she would have known that what you knew about your dog, that your dog had a certain sensitivity. And then I would say, well, she assumed the risk if she let her children go to your house to play. You can't say that I'm telling an 8-year-old and therefore I've completely absolved myself of responsibility. If you told the mother, and after you told the mother, she said, dog looks perfectly fine to me, I'm going to let my children go over there, then she is, in at least in part, negligent. You would agree with that, right?
Yes, I do.
But you didn't tell her, and that was a mistake. Telling the children is not telling her. Now, they have medical bills now of $2,500. Somebody's got to pay for that. You had the knowledge about your dog. She did not. So you have to pay these medical bills, and the judgment is for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,500. That's all.
What about the scars? I'm sorry, Your Honor. What about the other charges that I have to do another surgery for her to take out all the scars on her face?
Let me tell you something. Right now, to date, your medical bills are $2,500.
Okay.
Right? If you have additional medical bills, there on notice, they may be responsible. It may be that as your daughter gets older, this little mark that's right over here is going to fade.
I spoke to a specialist, which she
You
told
may
me that it
have
will
spoken
not.
to a specialist, but I'm telling you, as your daughter gets older, she's still a little child. Her face is going to grow, her skin is going to grow, and what looks like a 1/4 of an inch scar now may be nothing more than a dot later on, and you as a responsible parent might not want to put your child through an additional surgical procedure. So right now I'm giving you your medical bills to date, which are $2,500. Now you have to know, Ms. Matar, also, if you allow your children to go next door to a neighbor to play and the neighbor has a dog, a little dog like this, that looks perfectly harmless. There is always that risk. I don't think that there was anything malevolent about what the defendant did. I mean, according to what she tells me, the dog has never bitten anybody else. But you have a responsibility to tell the parents, not the children, of people that come into your house, that this dog has now bitten one child. Because the next time, if this happens to somebody else, you are responsible for punitive damages. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Okay, out of the back door to your right.
You know he has a problem. Lock him outside.
But you know, if you had
don't ruin a little girl's
we
life.
didn't know he had a problem.
Thank you for the nice words. That shows what kind of people you are.
well,
You did
oh,
not
yeah,
even bother to call to ask how my daughter was.
And now the next case.
Parties on Flubacher versus Fi. Step forward, please.
20-year-old student Renata Flubacher says she bailed 19-year-old Courtney Fi's boyfriend out of jail twice and has not been paid back.
The defendant was a friend of yours, according to your complaint. She had had some trouble with her mate.
Correct.
Some domestic violence, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
You had him arrested?
Yes, I did.
And then you thought better of it.
Yes.
So you called your friend and asked her to bail him out of jail.
Yes.
And what did you say?
I was unsure of it at first. I didn't know the procedures of what the law meant and what exactly. At first, it was just that she needed to borrow the money, and then it ended up she needed a co-signer, which was a lot more because I didn't know the gentleman. And of course, what I knew of him was all negative because what
You
had
mean the
happened.
gentleman that she lives with?
Well, her boyfriend.
Her
yes.
boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So how much did you spend the first time to bail him out of jail?
I think it was $325 after all the court fines.
And you borrowed that money from her?
Yes.
You promised to pay her back?
Yes, I did.
And you haven't?
No, I haven't had a chance.
How long ago was this?
It was in May, I think.
Now then he got himself arrested again.
Right. He got on probation and then was arrested for the same thing pretty much, from what my understanding is. Not on her, but on somebody else.
He sounds like a real charmer.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Renata Flubacher says she bailed Courtney Five's boyfriend out of jail twice and is suing Courtney to get the money back. Courtney feels it's her boyfriend's debt.
What was he arrested for the second time?
Assault.
On whom?
Some guy. I don't know. Some guy he fought with.
And what happened?
He had called me from jail and was crying and telling me that he respected me, and that one of the main problems with Courtney and I was that he wouldn't let me see Courtney. He said that my friendship with her, that I had bad influences.
This is Courtney?
On her. Yes. That I had bad influences on her. I've known her since 6th grade, and he pretty much told Courtney who she could and could not see, and he pretty much was just apologizing and saying that, you know, if I got him out again, that things would be different and that she could see me. Because when I got him out the first time, I pretty much didn't speak to Courtney again. You know, I didn't hear from her. She was at his house. I would call there. He would get upset with her, yell at her, tell her, you need to tell that girl to quit calling here.
You mean this is after
I bailed him out of jail.
After you bailed him out?
So he pretty much just begged me, and then he started saying some things about if his probation officer found out that he had violated his probation, he would go to jail for 6 years. And he was like, I'm going to go to jail, and I'm going to go to jail for something I don't deserve, and something like that. So I called Courtney, and I was like, you know, Courtney, is this true? And from what she understood, it was all true. And I was like, what do you want me to do? Do you have another way to get him out? You know, do you need the money? She was like, yeah, I need the money, and I can't live without him, and I need him to be out of jail. And
did you say that to her?
I did say that.
You couldn't live without him?
Well, I did love him very much.
Sounds like a manipulative sucker.
Yeah. Well, at first he wasn't like that, but...
So how much did it cost you the second time?
It was $325 again. And this time with a lot more writing his, because I had to co-sign also again, because neither one of them know anybody who has any type of liability, and it was a lot more money this time if he didn't end up going back to court.
Did he go back to court?
No, he didn't. I ended up having to call bounty hunters on him to pick him up. He was supposed to go to court, and Courtney and him got in a really big fight within a week or something. Something blew up, and he was staying at his other girlfriend's house, and we had to call the cops, and we had to do all this stuff. And the bounty hunters came and picked him up and had to take him to court, and then he got put back in jail.
So how much did the whole exercise cost you?
It was a little over $900.
All right, Courtney, let me hear your defense to this.
Well, I believe that I owe her for bailing him out the first time, but I didn't ask her to bail him out the second time. And he's the one that asked her, so I think that she should be suing him for the rest.
Well, she did, in fact, call you after she got this jailhouse call.
Yes, and I told her if she wanted to do it, that I would like her to do it, but I wasn't asking her to do it.
You said, I'm not asking you to do it, or did you say, I love him and I can't live without him?
Yeah, I said that, but I'm not asking you to bail him out.
She did say that, too. She's like, well, I'm not asking you, I'm just... She said something like, I'm not asking you because I know you've already done this once, and I know I already owe you money, but I love him so much, and I can't live without him, you know? And I was just like, okay, so do you want me to leave him in jail, or do you want me to get him out of jail? You know, this is up to you. And I told her straight out, I was like, you owe me this money. I can't stand I don't like what he does to you. I don't like the way he treats you. I don't like the way he treats me as somebody who's helping him. And
Did you say that to her when you spoke to her on the phone?
Yes, I did. And
did you
we
say...
went together to the Bonds place, and I was like, Courtney, this is a lot of money. I was like, I've worked so hard for all this money. And
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a waitress and a full-time student. And I've been saving all my life. I was like, this is my savings, and, you know, you will pay me back this money.
When did Prince Charming finally leave the picture?
About a month ago.
Under what circumstances?
I just couldn't take it anymore.
And he's going back to
and
jail.
he's actually wanted again, and I'm trying to help his aunt out because she's going to have to put up $14,000 to, if he doesn't turn himself in. So I'm helping her.
You mean he got somebody else to put up bail for
yeah,
him?
his aunt
And he
got him
didn't
out.
show up.
And he
And-
hasn't showed up, and
Yeah.
I'm the only one that he calls, so I'm trying to set him up.
Let me
so.
tell you what you should try to do. Change your number.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about losers.
Yeah.
You know, when you hang around with losers, you know what you become?
A loser.
Right.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I believe the plaintiff when she says she couldn't stand your boyfriend. Sounds to me as if she had good cause. He tried to come between the two of you. He's clearly abusive. He's unreliable. And yet, because of your friendship, she bailed him out of jail. Big mistake. Don't do it again. I'm sure you won't. You know, you're a hardworking gal, and if you have been diligent about saving your money, save it. You know, bailing him out is like taking the money and throwing it down the sewer. But there is no question that I believe that you assured her on both occasions that you would be responsible for this money because she was not relying on the boyfriend to pay her back. She was relying on you to pay her back. Your lawsuit seeks $800. You have to pay her. It's the right thing to do. Okay? Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
He's very violent. He's I don't know how many times he's hit her and stuff, but he's very verbally abusive. Many times when I've called there, he's calling her names. I was really confused. I've known her pretty much all my life, and I was like, what is she doing with this guy? And then 2 days later, she said that she was still in love with him, and I was confused.
She was my best friend, and we don't talk anymore.
Assaulted in a Hollywood electronics store owned by David Cohen while trying to buy film.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 242 on the calendar in the matter of Barnes versus Cohen. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, sir. Have a seat.
Miss Barnes, you claim that you were assaulted in defendant's store while you were there buying film.
Yes.
Where did this take place?
On Hollywood and Boulevard.
Were you a tourist?
Yes, I was.
According to this, you were a tourist.
I was
Who
a
were you
tourist.
with?
I was with my brother and his girlfriend, which are my witness, and my sister.
And you ran out of film?
And I ran out of film, right. I ran out of film, so I went into this film camera shop to purchase some films. And while I was in there, this man here was very, very rude to me.
Well, tell me exactly what happened. You went into the store and you said?
And I went into the store and I asked him, do you have films for my camera? And he said yes. So I asked him how much the films were. And he told me, and then I told him I think they cost too much, you know. And so at that time, my brother told me, he said, well, you know, I know another place where we can go to get them a little bit cheaper. And so at that time, he got all mad and upset because he said that, you know, that's why he hated to deal with the N-word, call us, you know, and stuff. And he was very, very rude to us, very, you know, obnoxious.
Did you buy the film?
So I had purchased it, and then I asked him, I told him that I decided that I didn't want the films. So I gave, you know, I asked him to give me my money back, you know. And so then he said, that's what he said, well, that's why I hate dealing with you. You know, he was just cursing and going on. And I'm not used to nobody hollering and screaming at me like that, you know.
So far, he said a lot of bad things to you.
Yes, he did.
And then what happened?
instead of giving my money back, he took my money and he threw it in my face. And so I was really, you know, upset and shocked. I started crying and everything. Then the next thing I know is the guy that was standing beside me hauled off and kicked me in my leg. You know.
Who was standing beside you?
Some man that worked in the store with him. I don't know, some merchant, I don't know, a salesperson or something. He was just standing there, and all of a sudden, this guy threw the money in my face. This other guy kicked me in my leg. You know, and I have the pictures here. I have the doctor's statement, everything. And I'm suing for pain and suffering.
Okay, sir, let me hear your version of what transpired.
Your Honor, I wasn't on that location to begin with. I have 3 different locations in Hollywood Boulevard.
Were you in the store at the time that this happened?
Absolutely not.
Well, who was? Step up here, please. Tell me your name.
My name is Emmanuel Cohen, and I manage the store on Hollywood Boulevard.
And you own the store?
Yes, Your Honor.
So you tell me your version of what happened. Is this the gentleman that you were dealing with?
This is the man right here, Your Honor, that
what?
threw the money in my face.
Okay.
The one with the glasses.
Okay. So you tell me, sir, what happened, your version of what happened when this lady came into your store.
I was standing behind the counter where all the films is located. 4 of them, they walked in. They asked how much is a Polaroid film. I told them $12.99. She asked me if she can get a discount. I said no.
No, I didn't.
He was quiet. You have to be quiet. Go ahead.
I said no. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, that man that's sitting there, he says, you know what? I don't like his face. He called me a name. Even though that he said all of these things to me, just a couple of words, she started telling him, shut up, be quiet. It's none of your affair. Shut up and get out of the store.
She told
him.
She told her brother?
Yes.
Okay.
After that, she said, that's okay. She threw $13 on the counter. I give her the Polaroid film. Before I ring it up, she walked out. 2 minutes later, she came back in again and she threw the film at my counter. And she says, I want my money back. At that time, I don't want any headache. So I void the sale. I give her the $13. She threw the film like this. By the time she was walking out, she go like this on my counter. I have no idea why she do this. She throw everything, the credit card machine, the printer, all my business card, the telephone, the stapler, my stamp, my receipt book, the whole thing on the floor. And I'm standing here behind the counter. She threw everything behind the counter and in front of the counter. And she walked out. We have a narrow
What
door.
happened with another employee who she says kicked her?
We had one person with the name of Elmer Gomez. This man, I have his telephone number and everything, right? He came that morning around 9:30 to the store to be trained or to see how he's making a sale. He's not hiree of us. We not hire him. We just try him out. He was there with another salesman. Both of them, they were in the back selling a video camera. Nobody was up front to kick or to harass or to do anything with her. I'm still behind my counter. I have no way to get out that fast or kick or do something.
She's not suggesting that you kicked her,
For
sir.
the past 17 years we've been
You're
in
not
Hollywood.
suggesting that he kicked you, right?
No, it was another man in the
No,
store,
ma'am.
Your Honor,
No,
that
Your
kicked
Honor.
me.
Excuse me.
Would you describe what that man looked like?
He was like about his size, but kind of, he was a
Younger,
little younger.
older?
He was a little younger. I don't know how old he was, but he was a little bit younger than both of these men. These are not the 2 men, the man that kicked me.
Step up here, sir. Tell me your name.
John Ellis. I'm her brother.
Where were you visiting from?
She was visiting from San Francisco. She came to visit me, and we had it all planned to go sightseeing that weekend. So we were on Hollywood Boulevard, so we went to get some films. So this gentleman with the glasses was very, very unprofessional, very rude to us. So my sister told me, my sister told me to walk out the store, leave him alone, because I was upset. And I left the store.
And you left?
I just walked out.
So you didn't see your sister get kicked?
No. I left the store because I didn't want to get no confrontation.
Yeah. My brother's girlfriend was in the store. She was still in the store that saw.
Did you see her get kicked by someone?
Yes, I did.
Well, then step up here. You may sit down, sir. Tell me your name.
Hi, my name is Deborah Key. Okay, I seen where...
Look at me, please.
Okay, I seen where the gentleman with the glasses, okay, he said and once she asked for her money back.
I want you to tell me about the kick that you say you saw.
Okay, about the kick.
Look at my eyes.
Okay, the guy just all of a sudden, he had no kind of words with the man. He just all of a sudden just kicked her. He just kicked her. Just deliberately just kicked her for no apparent reason. So that's when she got to hollering and screaming and fell down. I immediately pulled out my cell phone and called 911. I called 911, and then that's when the police came.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You say he didn't assault you.
Now that I look at him now, Your Honor, he is the man.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. As Harriet Barnes attempted to purchase film in a Hollywood electronics store owned by David Cohen, she says she was attacked.
Now, where is this Mr. Gomez today?
He ran away from my store because for the first hour that he stopped working for me, he had to deal with such a thing.
They arrested him. They put a handcuff on Elmer Gomez, this new guy, and they body search him. I saw that things are happening, and I called the store number 2. He was there, and I told him, come over here, and we have a little problem over here. As soon as he comes in, the police, they were standing there.
I came in, and I said to the police officer, I am the owner. What can I do for you? All of a sudden, this lady that I see her for the second time, she got up, and she said, you hit her. You hit her. So all of a sudden, the police officer that saw me, I'm coming from my next door store to this location. They opened the cuff from the gentleman that we call here Elmer Gomez, and they put it on me. And I told the officer, you know that it's not true. She said, David, relax. It's a citizen arrest. If they would leave it up to me, I would not take you down there because I know you came from the other location.
Were you, just a second, were you present in the store when the police arrived?
When the police arrived, Your Honor, I was out on the street, on the ground, holding my leg.
Did you ever see this gentleman at the store on that day?
No, I didn't. No, not this one. I saw this one and the other man that hit me.
After the incident, after the police were there, did you see this man here? This gentleman?
Yes. Well, this one right here, yes. He was there after the police arrived.
Did you ever see this man in handcuffs?
No. No, Your Honor.
Who was in handcuffs?
The man that kicked me.
Were you ever called to go to the criminal court with regard to that man?
No.
Well, you had an arrest made of somebody who, say, assaulted you. Did you ever follow up on it?
No.
Why not? Somebody assaulted you, and you had them arrested. Didn't you follow through with the police? Didn't you go down, file a police report?
Yes, I did. I have a police report. You know, I have
Let
the
me see
police
the
report.
police
It's
report.
right there.
Yeah, you probably...
Didn't anybody ask you to come down to the police precinct?
Yes, that lady called, remember?
Yeah, some lady...
Sir, stand up here. Do you know anything about this?
Yes, the lady
So
called.
what happened?
Because she lived in San Francisco, and I was taking care of all the business because she was in San Francisco, and she couldn't come back and forth.
Well, what happened when the police called?
They called me and told me that they were going to court on the...
16th.
On the... it was like 2 months ago. We were supposed to go to criminal court.
Right.
Then they called back and said it was thrown out of court or something.
What do you mean it was thrown out of court? Why was it thrown out of court?
I don't know.
Did you come down to criminal court?
No, because I didn't know that I was supposed to
Well, your brother knew.
You know.
Just a minute. Your brother knew.
She said we was on standby, that she'll call her if she needs us.
That's what it was.
The DA told us. We was on standby, and she said we was for 10 days that she'll call us. I gave her my phone number and my cell phone number, and she'll call me. She never did call. She said if you don't call, then we don't have to come. We don't have to appear. So that's why we didn't go down.
Give me the name of the district attorney.
What was her name?
We have the dismissal.
I'd like to see it, please, and I'm going to I may have to call the district attorney. I'm going to tell you what my problem is. I don't understand why people who have a legitimate complaint for an assault don't follow through with the criminal case and yet follow through with a civil case. Why wouldn't you follow through and want to see justice done?
We have never been to a court before in our life. This is all new processes to me.
Yeah, but you know, you came to a civil court to get money. Why not go to the criminal court to have justice done there?
Okay, well, we did this, and we got subpoena, and I told her, I asked her, do we have to appear? She said no.
Just a minute. This piece of paper says, Ms. Barnes, that you caused to be arrested Nasser Shlomo Cohen. Who is that?
That's me, Your Honor.
And you signed that you swore that he assaulted you. Ms. Barnes, shh. Well, read what you wrote. Not anybody else. Read what you wrote.
Your Honor, if they stop telling her what to do in her life, I think she would be much successful person in life.
That's none of your business, sir.
I'm sorry.
Now, let me see the rest of the papers, please. And get me the name of the district attorney, sir.
I'll get that name for you.
And Your Honor, may I say something again?
Now, let me look at some papers, sir. Don't say anything yet.
But you wouldn't dare.
I don't have a certificate of disposition about what happened with this case.
It got dismissed, Your Honor.
It's not here. You said to me, now I've read all the papers here. Did you find the name of the district attorney, sir?
I have a phone number you can call.
Sure.
213.
Let me see the other papers that you have there, please.
This is for the regular,
All right. Let's see. All I want to make sure is as follows. It's your statement, madam, that you were perfectly prepared to proceed with the criminal case against the person who you said assaulted you, but you were never contacted to appear. That is what you told me. Is that correct?
Yes.
But you were never contacted, never told that you have to come down for a trial.
No, I never got a phone call.
Okay. Why don't you all have a seat, please? Please. Make room for your sister, sir.
Oh.
Get up.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
You just told me 5 minutes ago that it was somebody else.
Because he looks different, Your Honor. He looks completely different.
Younger. Oh, please, madam.
He does.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Harriet Barnes wants damages she says resulted from an assault in a Hollywood electronics store owned by David Cohen.
Bill, this is Judge Scheindlin. How are you? Good, thank you. Who are you, Mr. Great. Okay. It's a very simple matter. I was given by litigants who were before me on a civil case a subpoena in a criminal case, and I do not believe that they appeared. They tell me, the defendants in this case tell me that the case in the criminal court was dismissed for whatever reason. The complaint that I have, the criminal subpoena, is people of the state of California plaintiff versus Nasser Cohen. It's important, but it really becomes less important because clearly in this case, even according to the plaintiffs, the wrong person was named as a defendant. You don't know. It's very possible. Well, I thank you very much for your time. I will try to ferret this out, but as far as you know, this case absolutely was dismissed, as it probably should have been. Very well. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your help. Bye-bye. Oh, I'm getting too old for this. I have a cold. I don't feel well. And something is not right here. Step up here. Step up here. I'm on the phone trying to ferret out what's going on. First of all, you step up here, too. I want you to take a look at this, sir. That piece of paper, that summons that you gave me, is the people of the state of California against this man for assault. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Yes.
You say he didn't assault you.
Now that I look at him now, Your Honor, he is the man. He is.
What do you mean now that you look at him? You just told me 5 minutes ago that it was somebody else
Because he looks different, Your Honor. He looks completely different.
Younger. Oh, please, madam.
He does. He was dressed different that day and everything.
My problem, Ms. Barnes, is as follows. I just spoke to the city attorney. You clearly filed your case against this man. He was arrested. He was processed because we have a complaint. The district attorney told me that the case against this man was dismissed. 5 minutes ago, you said to me, this person didn't do it, this person didn't do it, it was somebody else. And all of a sudden, when I take a break, you say, he looks different from the day it was him. Clearly, from what you told me before, it was not this person.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
I am mortified that you came here as a tourist to have a good time, and you had what was a miserable experience. But you have to be able to prove a case. You should have gone to the criminal court. Maybe because you knew that the right person wasn't being charged, you didn't go to the criminal court. That's a possibility. But you should have, because you can't abdicate your responsibility as a citizen in the criminal case and then come in and sue for a lot of money civilly and expect a court to hear less quality proof than it would take in another court. I know one thing for certain. I am not satisfied that this man assaulted you. And if I'm not satisfied that this man assaulted you, your case has to be dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
It's a policy of me because I'm Persian. I just say I'm a citizen of this country. I have to be nice to people.
I'll tell you one thing, anybody go to that store, don't shop at that store, because they're very rude and very unprofessional.
Thank you very much.
That's all I got to say.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
I'll make sure that nobody else comes to that store.
No problem. We are here to make money, and this nonsense don't mean nothing to us. I'm sorry if they had a bad experience. And really, I'm sorry.
Man, get out of here. Don't play sorry to me.
Suing her daughter's best friend, Melissa Nelson, for back rent and an airline ticket. Melissa is countersuing for damages to her car, bed, and cowboy hat.
Order. All rise. Quiet, please. Your Honor, this is case number 444 on the calendar in the matter of Hotchman versus Nelson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated, sir.
Ms. Hotchman, according to these papers, you've known the defendant since she was in kindergarten. She was a friend of your daughter's.
That's correct.
Daughter's name is Jennifer.
Yes.
See, I read papers. And there came a time when you decided that you were going to let her rent a rental house that you had, along with your daughter and a third roommate whose name is Ben. Do we have a Ben here?
No.
So the three of them are going to live in this rental property that you had.
Yes.
And you moved in?
Yes.
With Jennifer and Ben?
Correct.
But your daughter Jennifer was a slob.
Yep, sure was. Still is.
Was and is. And so you evicted her. Told her, go find someplace else to live with your cats.
Or clean up.
Or clean up. Good for you. How many cats did she have?
3, I think.
And 2 dogs. And 2 ferrets.
Anyway, that left you and Ben in the house.
Correct.
And there were some problems, but whatever the problems were, you say that she owes you some rent.
Yes.
Because you moved out. Right?
Well, she evicted me.
Because you weren't paying the rent.
Correct.
And in addition, you were all supposed to go on some sort of a trip, skiing trip. And you purchased airline tickets, and you would promise to pay her if she bought your ticket. They were going as a family?
Right.
So you purchased the ticket, and she didn't go.
Right.
Well, That's not exactly how it happened.
I understand that.
Okay.
So that's what we have. We have the rent and we have this airline ticket. How much in rent do you say she owes you?
$639. That's subtracting what she paid.
Okay, so she owes you $631 in rent. And how much was this airline ticket?
$262.
And you couldn't get the money back?
No, it's a non-refundable ticket, but it's a reusable ticket.
Oh, do you have the ticket?
I have the, this is from, it's an e-ticket from United Airlines.
Okay, that's an electronic ticket.
Yeah, so she can use the ticket some other time.
All right, let's first, she acknowledges that she owes you some rent, which is why she was evicted, but I want to hear about this airline ticket.
We go to Vail every year as a family, and my daughter Jennifer was going along with my son and another friend of ours. And so when Melissa was moving in latter part of August and September, you know, Jennifer says, well, gee, can Melissa go too? Because we've been skiing for the last 10 years, 15 years, whatever, together. And so I said, sure, that's great. Well, Melissa had just started a new job, and she says, well, yeah, I want to go, and I'll pay for it, but I can't pay for it right now. I said, okay. I mean, I've known her since she was 5 years old, so I have no reason to believe that she wouldn't follow through and pay what she said she would. So I agreed to go ahead and get the ticket. That way she could fly on the same plane with us and everything. Well, when the controversy happened with my daughter moving out, then there was this, I'm going to go, I'm not going to go, then Melissa, I'm going to go, I'm not going to go, back and forth between the girls. Between the girls. And I'm not sure at this point in time who finally made who caused the both of them not to go, because it was a controversy between Jennifer wasn't going to go, she was mad at me. Then she said, yeah, I will go, but then Melissa said she'd already said she was going to work, and back and forth. And I told Melissa, I said, the bottom line is the ticket is yours in your name, and you can use it again some other time. It's not refundable, but it's a reusable ticket. And she still owed me the money for it. I mean, I can't use it. It's not in my name.
What she's saying is not far from what you say in your answer, well, Melissa. You keep shaking your head no. You agreed to go on the trip.
Yes, I did.
And then your friend Jennifer, her daughter Jennifer,
right,
was annoyed with her mother because her mother said, get your cats and your ferrets and your dogs out of the house because you're making my house a pig pen. And so she's mad at her mother.
Right.
She says, then I'm not going on the trip with you.
Correct. Well, when she said that, then I had taken a week off work. I wasn't going to take a week off work, so I then told my boss that I could, in fact, work and to please put me back on the schedule. Well, then Jennifer changed her mind, and I couldn't then go to my boss and say, oh, by the way, now I've changed my mind, so can you take me off the schedule again? And Leslie had told me, don't worry about it. I know it's Jennifer's fault that you can't go. I wasn't going to go if Jennifer wasn't going to go. And then when I couldn't go, Jennifer had then changed her mind and said she wanted to go. But then when I wasn't going, Jennifer wasn't going to go.
Melissa, who's the innocent? Who's the innocent person?
As far as what, ma'am?
As far as this whole scenario. You wanted to go on a trip with them. You said, please pay for the ticket because I want to go, but I can't pay for it right now. Is that what you told her?
Originally, yes.
Yeah. So she bought the ticket. She's out the money for this ticket, $262. Then you and your friend and everybody else got annoyed, right? Your friend got annoyed. She wasn't going to go. You weren't going to go. There's only one innocent person. That's her. She's out $262.
It wasn't my fault that they got into a dispute and Jennifer then changed her mind. Was I going to go and ski by myself?
Why not?
Would you want to go and ski by yourself?
Listen, let me explain something to you. I don't go on top of a mountain where it's 4 degrees below zero, where I'm petrified to get to the bottom of that mountain, when I could be at the bottom of the mountain, sitting in a lodge, drinking a large grog. So I don't go on top of a mountain. I wouldn't ski by myself, and I wouldn't ski with the whole Coxie Army. That doesn't mean that you can't go skiing by yourself. You can go skiing by yourself. You never know who you'll meet if you go skiing. Right?
Ooh.
Lots of nice people go skiing.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
But look at the brim. That's what the main concern is here. It's completely lost its shape.
You better get a life, madam.
And later today,
You were hitting him in the head with the basketball. So he can either react or he can walk away. He chose to react.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Leslie Machman wants her daughter's best friend, Melissa Nelson, to pay back rent and the cost of an airline ticket. Melissa wants damages for her car, bed, and cowboy hat.
She was nice enough to buy your ticket. You owe her for the ticket. Now, I'm going to get to your counterclaim. You're counterclaiming because you say she damaged a lot of your property.
Correct.
So you tell me about the damage to your property.
Well, in the whole moving process, she broke into my bedroom and took it upon herself to pack all of my things when I was at work. Called me, left a message on my voicemail saying, "It's trash day today and the scavengers are out. I suggest you come and pick up your things off the driveway." When she was moving all of my things out of my room, she crushed my cowboy hat and ruined this one as well. I have receipts for both of those.
What do you mean she crushed it?
Well, I keep them, I love my cowboy hats, okay? I keep them in these sweater boxes upside down like they're supposed to so they don't lose their shape. She took the sweater thing out of my closet and put it in a box and crushed them. I can't wear that, nor can I wear this. It's got creases. People would laugh at me if I put this thing on and wore it. They would laugh at me.
Bird, would you get me the black hat,
Would
please?
you? I mean...
Would you get me the black hat, please?
That's... And this one, too.
See that one.
This one has creases all over it.
Oh, God.
And it's completely lost its shape.
You better go to the doctor. It's got creases all over it. Just a second.
Doing a good job, there,
What?
Judge. Doing a good job.
What?
But look at the brim. That's what the main concern is here.
Oh,
it's completely lost its shape.
You better get a life, madam. Just a second. Bird, would you do me a favor? Sure. Give it back the hat.
Sure.
Thank you.
And then also she was painting the house. Her and her son were painting the house. And in the process of painting the house, the wind apparently was blowing a little hard that day and blew overspray all over my car, all over my brand new car that I just got a couple of months ago. So now I have little white specks of paint all over my car. And I took it to find out how much that would be. So
Does
I have
the
a receipt
car
for that.
thing have any ring of truth to it?
This is the first I've heard about it today. I didn't know anything about it until today. This or the cowboy hats.
I just fixed the cowboy hats.
Ma'am, no, seriously? This is a $189 hat. This is not fixed at all. I cannot wear this hat.
Just a second. Who paid $189 for it?
I paid $189 and I have a receipt for that.
Just a second. How dare you pay $189 for a hat and not pay her rent?
I've had this
Just
hat.
a second. How dare you pay $189 for a hat and not give her the money that you owed her
The
for
hat
rent?
was purchased long before I ever even moved into the house. I've had this hat for a long time.
How long have you had the hat?
I can tell you exactly. I have a receipt.
Yes.
2397.
How long did you live in the house?
4 months, 5 months, maybe.
August. She moved in the latter part of August into my house and then moved down the street.
I lived in her house before I moved into the dungeon because we had to get the old roommates out.
When you said you lived in her house, you had a room in her house?
Yes.
Did you pay rent?
No.
How long did you live there?
A couple of weeks. 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
How long did you
About
live?
3 weeks.
And she just let you come there because she's fond of you?
Yeah, I would imagine so.
Mm-hmm.
She was out of town. She was on a cruise.
What difference does that make?
Oh,
It's her house.
Okay.
$631 for rent and $262 for the ticket. Just bought yourself an electronic ticket. $893 is what you owe her. Is that right, Bert?
That's absolutely right, Judge.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff for the amount of $893. Your counterclaim is dismissed. It's nonsense.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's very sad that I mean, she's like a second mom to me. It's very sad that it even came to this.
I feel really bad about this because she is like a second daughter to me, and she pushed me to a point where I had to move her out of the house because I had to rent the house to somebody else.
My mother would never even think to do this to her daughter.
By the way, I didn't know anything about the hats. I've never seen them before.
And now the next case.
Parties on Bolo Talo versus Delalo. Step forward, please.
Chuchi Bolotalo says her 10-year-old son, Ricardo, was kicked by Marjorie Delalo's son, 14-year-old Jacob, after Ricardo hit him in the head with a basketball.
You're 9?
10.
10? You're 13.
14.
14 now. So this happened about a year ago?
Yes.
your families were out at an amusement park, according to the papers that I have. Some sort of an amusement park?
Indoor playground.
Now, tell me your name.
JR.
JR, you were playing basketball. Were you playing with this young man?
Yes.
What's your first name?
Jacob.
Now, when you were playing basketball, you were sort of fooling around with Jacob, right?
Yes.
And what were you doing with the basketball in Jacob's head?
When I threw it, and then he was gonna get a ball, and then it accidentally hit his face.
Well, JR, did you hit him in the head a couple of times with the basketball?
Only once.
How many times did he hit you in the head with the basketball?
About 4 or 5 times.
And what did you do after he hit you 4 or 5 times with the basketball?
Well, I told him the first time to stop, and after the last time, I kicked him in the stomach.
And then did he stop hitting you in the head?
Yes.
Had you ever done anything like that before?
No.
Why didn't you just walk away from him?
Well, I was kind of... It was right at the moment. I just didn't think about it.
So you just kicked him?
Yeah.
He's a little guy, right?
Right.
Not a particularly smart thing to do.
Right.
Now, JR, you know how important it is to tell the truth here in court?
Yes.
And I don't care what you told your mother before. I don't care what you told her before. You have to tell the truth here. You understand?
Yes.
Were you fooling around when you were hitting him in the head with the basketball?
Yes.
Did he tell you to stop?
No.
Did he tell you to cut it out?
Yes.
And you did it again?
Only did it once.
No. That's not true. That's what you told your mother. But that's not true. You were playing around. You hit him a couple of times in the head with the basketball. And it wasn't an accident.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
I don't think that she is responsible for
I don't care what you think. I'm the one who has to make a determination as to what's fair.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Chuchi Bolota'alo claims her 10-year-old son, Ricardo, was kicked by Marjorie Delalo's son, 14-year-old Jacob.
Now, after he kicked you, did it hurt?
Yes.
So what did you do?
Well, I was in the ground and I was crying, and then he told his mom, and then his mom came, and the jungle came, and then the jungle called the hospital. The hospital came, picked me up. Now I went to the hospital, and then I started feeling better.
Did you feel better as soon as you got to the hospital?
Well, not that much.
What do you mean, not that much?
When I was on the plane, on the car, I was feeling a little bit better.
When you were in the ambulance?
Yeah.
You were feeling better. Did you know each other from before?
Yes.
Had you been friends?
Yes.
Now, this lawsuit is about, who are you?
I'm Priscilla, her mother, and I was there when JR was hurt, and I was by his side, and he wanted, when the ambulance came and put him on a gurney, he wanted to get off the gurney then, and he said he was fine, and he did not want to go to the hospital then.
Yeah, but it's a good idea, because you never can tell with kids. You know, kids can say, I feel fine, I want to go play, and they can have some internal damage that you can't see. So you don't take the word of a 9, 10-year-old that they feel fine, they want to go out back and play. You agree with that, right?
That's what the paramedic said also.
That he should go and be checked out.
That he should go.
Absolutely.
They were
so that's the right thing to do. There's only one issue in this case. You're suing them over the ambulance bill, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And you think that they should pay the whole thing?
No, I asked her if she can pay the half.
Well, I think that that's very fair.
Mm-hmm. Because
accident happen anytime, especially when there's kids.
Well, it's an accident, and aside from the fact that your son was fooling around with this basketball, hit him a couple of times in the head with it, he was acting like a fool. He's much bigger. He should not have kicked him, right?
Right.
So you think you're responsible for half the bill?
Well, I told her that I would pay for part of it because I felt that, you know, being as what happened, that I could pay for part, but, you know, since JR started the whole thing, I didn't think I was responsible for the entire bill.
Well, I don't think you're responsible for the entire bill either, but I think you're responsible for half. What was the whole bill for the ambulance?
$768.80.
Do it for me. $768.
$384, Judge.
You have something important to say?
Yes. I don't think that she's responsible for the whole bill.
I don't care what you think.
Well,
what you think is unimportant. I'm the one I'm the one who has to make a determination as to what's fair.
But we all objected to him going, too. We offered to take him in the car to the hospital.
What does that have to do with anything?
Well,
Madam,
yes.
Listen to me. I mean, I don't know where you're coming from. The play area has a responsibility. Once the play area is advised that a child has been injured while on their grounds, they have to take every step that's reasonably prudent to ensure that the child isn't injured, not putting him in your car. Sit down.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Look, it's a good lesson for you. He's little, you can walk away. Sometimes it's better off to walk away from a situation than to react to it. Jacob, do you understand?
Yeah.
And I think probably if you had it to reflect on, since you look like a nice young man, you would have just walked away and say, listen, he's a little kid and I'm not going to get involved, right? And you can't always rely on the fact that you're a little guy, right? And that you can fool around with somebody else and they're not going to retaliate. Do you understand?
Yes.
You know, you were hitting him in the head with the basketball. So he can either react or he can walk away. He chose to react. It's not the smart thing to do, and each of you has to be responsible for it. So I'm giving you half of the amount of the ambulance that took your son to the hospital, which is $384. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I didn't agree with paying the whole ambulance bill at all. I didn't want to do that.
The bill is so high for me to pay, and he's the one who kicked my son, you know.
Everything's going to be all right. Fantastic. Thank you.
Steve says Michelle and her husband always gave him gifts for giving good service.
Order. All rise. Your Honor, this is case number 414 on the calendar in the matter of Ingebretson versus Beaver. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am.
Mrs. Ingebretson, according to your complaint, you and your husband met the defendant when he was a waiter in a restaurant that you frequented. Is that right?
That is correct, Your Honor.
And over a period of time, you and your husband made loans to him. In what amount?
Amount of $800, Your Honor.
Is that what you're suing for?
I'm suing for $1,500, Your Honor.
Well, that's the first thing I didn't understand. If you loaned him $800, why are you suing him for $1,500?
Punitive damages.
What's punitive damages?
For all the stress that he has caused my husband.
Everybody's got stress. I have stress. Bird has stress. Everybody has stress. So you loaned him $800. Let's stick to the $800. Why did you make loans to him in the amount of $800?
We trusted him as a friend.
Well, how did you become friends? He was serving you pasta. How did you become friends?
We met him through a restaurant in Santa Ana, and we kept going back because we liked the service that he gave us, and we felt, you know, we could trust him, and we wanted to be friends.
So tell me, you made a series, according to you, of 3 loans to him. Correct. Tell me about the loans.
On the first loan, he had called my husband and asked if he can borrow some money. And my husband called me, and we discussed it, and I said, yes, go ahead. And so then I gave my husband my credit card number, and we, you know, wired through a Western Union some money to Mr. Beaver.
So how much did you wire him this time?
$200 plus then the $40 for the wire fee.
Oh, okay. And tell me about the second loan.
Second loan was for $300. He approached us again saying that his car was going to be repossessed because he didn't have the car payment. And so we basically gave him my money and, you know, loaned it to him.
So that's $300. The most interesting one, according to your complaint, is this final loan that you made to him. Tell me about that.
He called us and said, you know, he was being threatened by a loan shark, and his family was being threatened by a loan shark because he had not paid this loan shark back. So we drove all the way down to Newport Beach at a Del Taco, and Mr. Beaver met us there.
Well, how much was this loan to the alleged loan sharks?
$300.
And those are the 3 loans?
That's correct.
Did you ask him back for the money?
We have letters stating we've asked him back, and he said he would pay us when he gets paid, and he has still not paid us back.
Do you have any letter from him acknowledging the loans?
No. We just felt we could trust. We did.
Well, let me see your letters.
The last page is the last demand letter we wrote to him and delivered it, hand-delivered to Stater Brothers.
Okay, Mr. Beaver, let's hear your side of the story.
Your Honor, this fabrication is a wonderful story. It's not exactly at all the way things took place. Joe and Michelle came in as customers. They were turned over to me by another waitress because she didn't feel that she wanted to wait on them. I set about giving them the best service I could. And of course, they enjoyed the service and came back repeatedly. During the course of the 1.5 years that I waited on them, they began to tip me quite graciously. They exorbitant amounts. Often he would not only tip me on the credit card, he would palm me a check or some money on the side saying, this isn't just for, this is just for you. This isn't for your waiter or for your busboy. This amount is just for you. I would arrive at work, gift baskets of balloons and candy and cakes and cookies would arrive. Some of the things I have here, an electronic organizer, a Swatch Olympic collector's watch. When they went to Vegas, they brought me back gifts. I was always very appreciative of all these gifts, but that's exactly what they were, gifts to me. They were for my service to them. Can I show you this here, Your Honor?
I don't know what it is. Tell me what it is first before you...
An umbrella.
An umbrella. I know what an umbrella looks like.
Okay. This arrived in the mail one day. It's... you know, just even at my house, gifts would arrive and things
We're
like
not
that.
talking about a Swatch watch, and we're not talking about a pocket organizer. She's not suing for that. And
Right,
we're not
exactly.
talking about an umbrella. We're talking about 3 separate cash loans, cash amounts of money that were transferred to you, the last one of which was for $300 when they said they met you at a Taco Bell.
Our fabrications. The only time I ever asked to borrow some money from them, I expressed that I did have some car repair to do. I did mention this to them. They both offered to loan it to me, as they had repeatedly said, if you ever need any help with rides or anything like that. In showing friendship, they did say, feel free to ask us. I denied it at the time, said, no, don't worry about it. The next day, I did call Mr. Engelbretson up. I said, sir, you know, can I go ahead and borrow $200 from you? And he said, so certainly. I called him back to verify the receiving of the money. That is true. And at that time, he told me that is a gift from Michelle and I. I said, no, I feel that's too much to ask. I want to go ahead and pay you back on this, my next payday. No, that's a gift from Michelle and I. Don't you worry about it. That's his exact words. One evening, they called me up. They said, why don't we take you out for a beer and a game of pool? I expressed that I didn't feel I wanted to go out without my girlfriend, Sam. They went ahead and said, they said, well, go ahead and bring her along, too. Right from the get-go, when she and Mrs. Engelbretson met, she began to give her just looks like you wouldn't believe. She didn't like her. She was rude to her throughout the evening. I left early. We both left early from the event, feeling very uncomfortable. Went home. I called them up, and I expressed to them that if they wanted to talk to me next time, I was on my way to some place. Why don't they meet me there? I went and I sat down. And I talked with them. I expressed that our friendship had ended because of the way they had treated Sam.
Did that conversation ever take place?
That is incorrect, Your Honor. I didn't like the way she treated Mr. Beaver.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You think she's got a thing for you, Mr. Beaver? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor.
You think that Mr. Engelbretson had a thing for you, too?
And later today...
You didn't feel comfortable, but you let her write it anyway.
Yes, because I told her if she wanted to write it, she had to write it at her own risk.
Did those words ever pass his lips? No, of course not.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Ingebretson says waiter Steve Beaver took advantage of her and her husband by not repaying loans. Steve says he was their favorite waiter and they always gave him gifts.
Did you meet with him at a restaurant in a public place where he said to you, I don't think we should be friends anymore?
No.
I don't think, because I don't like the way you treated Sam.
No.
Yeah, that doesn't sound logical to me. Why would you have to meet
We
somebody
met
to
because
tell
I
them
was
that?
on my way someplace, Your Honor, and I told them, and that was our meeting at the Del Taco that she refers to. I did not ask to borrow any money. That was our meeting there. At that time, also, they once again tried to get me to go to work for them, kept trying to get Sam out of the picture, and being naive.
Mr. Beaver.
Being naive.
Common sense. Well, I'm not naive, sir. Common sense does not suggest to me that one person would have to meet to discuss the fact with really virtual strangers that they don't want to be their friend anymore. That could be either accomplished by not taking their telephone calls or with some conversation on the phone. Not a
Not really, Your
sit-down.
Honor. Not in this case. Not in this case. And we were by this time now. You have to remember, this is a year and a half of her coming in and me waiting on them. At this time, it had become a friendship. I think if you'll even question Sam as to there was something more wanted out of this relationship, like for the day that she appeared in the parking lot of where I worked and said, you know, I broke up with Joe now. Why don't you call me someday and we can do lunch? Or how she's now employed by the restaurant shop around the corner from where I work. All of a sudden, she works there right now because I'm working right here.
So you think she's got a thing for you, Mr. Beaver? Just a second. You think she's got a thing for you, Mr. Beaver? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, Your Honor.
You think that Mr. Engelbretson had a thing for you, too?
Well, you know, Your Honor, there's a lot of kinky things that go on in this world. Now that looking back on it, I think there could have been something there.
You talk faster than the last guy I bought a used car from, Mr. Beaver.
Sorry, Your Honor.
You owe her $840. It's my determination that she's telling me the absolute truth, that she and her husband made these loans to you over a period of time, none of which you paid back. I think you're doing a lot of fast talking, Mr. Beaver. I don't know what you needed the money for.
They gave me a CD stereo player. They gave me clothing. They gave me CDs. They gave me gift certificates. Do I pay them back for all this, too? As a waiter, I accept gratuities.
They're not suing you for that, Mr. Beaver. They're not suing you for all the gifts they gave you. Let me tell you why you're whacked up. Because if what you're telling me, sir, is that you thought that there was something strange in all this,
not to
when
the end,
somebody... Baloney!
Not to the
if
end,
you're a waiter and somebody is palming you checks, in addition to leaving you money on the tip, I could see somebody saying, you gave me really extra special service, here's $5.
No, Your Honor.
Extra.
It wasn't like that at all. They gave me more than $5.
No, just a minute. How much more than $5, Mr. Beaver?
They've given me $100 checks as gratuities.
Okay. So, if somebody is giving you $100 checks, and you don't think that they have an ulterior motive involved, right? And then you take that money.
No, I don't. I didn't.
You just think that you are a terrific waiter.
That's right. Can I have my witness speak, Your Honor? Here's somebody who tried to tell me all the way along. Sam told me. She said, something's going on here more than meets the eye.
Mr. Beaver, I'm not interested in Sam. I'm interested in you, sir. I'm interested in you.
Right.
Because if your girlfriend is telling you there's something fishy going on here because they're giving you $100 checks in your hand for serving them a bowl of linguine, then what I'm telling you,
more
sir,
than a bowl of linguine.
whatever it was, and you said to yourself, listen, they're giving it to me.
No.
What am I supposed to do? I'm just going to give it back? I never heard you say, sir, that you took the checks and returned them, or that you took the cash and returned it, right? You never did that.
I never took gratuities because gratuities are what I work for as a waiter. I don't work for free, and when someone hands me something, tells me thank you for the service tonight, we really enjoyed ourselves. You give us wonderful service. That's my job.
And here's an extra $100.
That's right.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $840. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I don't want to be near him.
She's lying through her teeth because this is the only way she can get close enough to him. They're sick. Both her and her husband are sick. You don't get $100 gift baskets. You don't get stereos. You don't get this and that. He said there was something wrong with me. He thought I was jealous. And I'm jealous of this? Look at her.
All of a sudden, a sandwich shop opens right next door, and she's got a job right there. You know, come on, put 2 and 2 together. What are we talking about here? I'm being pursued. The calls on the phone. I'm being harassed. I'm being stalked. I am being
Just because you look that way doesn't mean her sexual appetite isn't what it is.
I'm sorry. It's a free world to work anywhere you want.
And now the next case.
Parties on Mitchell versus Witt. Step forward, please.
22-year-old nursing assistant Tina Mitchell wants her ex-boyfriend, Coy Witt, 26, to pay her medical bills after she crashed on his motorcycle. Coy wants Tina to pay for the damages to the bike.
Miss Mitchell, how old are you?
22.
Do you work?
Yes.
What do you work for?
The Adrian Convalescent Center.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a CNA.
What is that?
Certified Nurse's Assistant.
So you're a working 22-year-old adult?
Yes.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 27.
You work?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
I do heating and air conditioning.
You were dating or something, had some sort of relationship with him?
Yes.
He has a motorcycle?
Yes.
You got on his motorcycle?
Yes.
Had an accident, right?
Yes.
Was seriously injured?
Yes.
Had a lot of medical bills?
Yes.
You were riding this motorcycle by yourself?
Yes.
You want him to pay your medical bills?
Yes.
You, 27 years old, let her use your motorcycle?
Yes, I did.
She had an accident?
Yes, she did.
You want her to pay for the damage to your motorcycle?
Correct.
No.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You knew I shouldn't have been on that bike. You knew it. And you let me get on it anyway.
You're a big girl. Like a kid in a candy store that wants it, you keep on telling them no, finally, here, go for it.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tina Mitchell wants her ex-boyfriend, Coy Witt, to pay the medical expenses after she crashed his motorcycle. Coy wants her to pay for the motorcycle.
Why do you think he should pay your medical bills?
Because he didn't have insurance on his bike at the time that I had the wreck.
Let us assume we lived in a kinder, gentler time and there was no insurance. Let's talk a little bit here about personal responsibility. Did he force you to get on this motorcycle?
No, ma'am.
Tell me how it came about that you got on the motorcycle.
On our first date, he came to pick me up on his motorcycle, and I made it known to him that, I've always enjoyed bikes. And I told him that, someday I'd like to learn to ride. And he told me that he would be more than glad to help me. And he did a couple times, show me basically what to do. Never really took me out on it, just showed me what to do. On June 2nd, he let me take it out by myself.
What do you mean he let you?
Well, I asked him if I could take his bike, and he said yes.
You, 22 years old, who takes care of the sick and elderly, right, asked him if you could take out his motorcycle by yourself.
Yes.
Continue.
I was out for about 15, 20 minutes, and I was heading back to his home. I was at a four-way stop sign, and somebody started to take off at the same time as I did. I didn't know what to do. I was panicking, and I took off too quickly, hoping to get across the intersection before the other car did. And I don't know if I jumped the bike or what exactly happened. All I know is that the bike fell to the left, and I went to the right. I caught my leg on the kickstand peg underneath the neutral switch, and it shredded my leg open. And I was taken to the hospital from there, where he had told the doctors there and signed the insurance forms, signed everything, claiming responsibility.
Somebody had to claim responsibility, otherwise they wouldn't have taken care of you, right? Right?
Right.
I didn't sign anything, Your Honor.
Your signature is on file on the papers from the doctor.
Well, can I see that?
Right there, it tells that his signature is on file.
Can I see it, please?
I'd like to see them too, Your Honor, to see if that's my signature, if so.
Let me see. Let me just see. Could you? It says it's typed in, signature on file.
Right, that was from...
It's typed in. Hey, get out of here. Now, Mr. Witt.
Yes.
Why don't you tell me why you think she should pay for the damage to the bicycle that you let her ride?
Well, I let her ride the bike, and basically I told her if she wanted to ride it, she had to ride it at her own risk.
No, just a minute. Are you trying to tell me, sir, that you said to this gal that you were dating, if you ride this bike, you are riding it at your own risk?
Yes, I did.
Look over here.
Yes, I did.
Not in this life.
No,
Not in this life. Now, you gave her a couple of lessons on this bike.
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel perfectly comfortable with her riding it?
No, I still not felt.
Oh, good. You didn't feel comfortable.
But
just a minute. You didn't feel comfortable with her riding the bike, but you let her ride it anyway.
Yes, because I told her if she wanted to ride it, she had to ride it at her own risk.
Did those words ever pass his lips? No, ma'am. Of course not.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
All right, Miss Mitchell, you rode the bike. That's a very foolish thing to do unless you're really thoroughly acquainted with this big thing. I understand it's a big bike, according to both your papers, you know, with no metal around you. Whenever I drive, I like to drive in something with a lot of metal around me. The bigger, the better. So, you were foolish. Cost you $3,000. You, sir, your motorcycle was damaged in the amount, according to you, of $4,800?
Yes, ma'am.
Next time, you don't let somebody ride your bike that you're not particularly comfortable with. Your petition is dismissed. Your counterclaim is dismissed. That's it, sir.
Well, she said she was going to pay for the damages.
Well, I want to tell you something. Mr. Witt, if you are in possession of a vehicle like a motorcycle, which is really a dangerous instrument in the hands of somebody that doesn't know how to use it properly, and you allow them to use it, you assume the risk that if they hurt themselves or damage your bike, you may be responsible. In this case, I find that she was an adult and she assumed the risk of her own injuries.
It's fine.
Right? But you, sir, are assuming the $4,800 loss or damage to your bicycle because you both acted like idiots. That's all.
Yeah.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
I have to deal with this for the rest of my life because of him. Because he wasn't man enough to tell me, no, Tina, you can't go out on that bike. It's too big for you. I had a helmet on, yes.
Because I made her put it on.
Made me?
Yeah, I did.
I ain't that stupid.
Obviously, you got on the bike at your own risk to ride it.
It's him being a pathetic mama's boy. I'm glad that I don't ever have to see you again.
26-year-old chef John Harkness is suing his former best friend, 27-year-old printer Stephen Cutler, for a $3,000 loan. Stephen says John promised him the money after he won a huge settlement.
Order. All rise. Thank you. Judge, this is number 388 on the calendar in the matter of Harkness versus Cutler. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Sir, proceed, please.
Former friends.
Correct.
Fight over money.
Not correct.
Unfortunately.
Well, that's why we're here, sir, because this is a dispute over money.
Correct.
According to you, Mr. Harkness, you lent Mr. Cutler $3,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Cutler says it was a gift.
Correct.
So why don't you tell me, sir, how did this loan come about?
Well, in the beginning of 1995, Stephen was living in a house. He was renting a room. He couldn't live at home. His father, they kicked him out of the house, and he couldn't live at home. He had nowhere else to go, and he was also getting kicked out of this new apartment that he had gone into. And he came to me and said, you know, John, can you give me $5,000? I said, Stephen, you know, $5,000 is a lot of money. You know what I mean? I really can't give you $5,000. I said,
what kind of work do you do that you had
well,
thousands of dollars?
Unfortunately, when I was younger, I had cancer, and I had gotten a settlement for it. And so when
How did you get a settlement for having cancer?
Well, because I was misdiagnosed for not having it. And then I did have it, so it was a big, drawn-out thing. When I was 19, I got a settlement and put it away and invested it for my children.
How much did you get?
It was about $500,000. So
and Mr. Cutler, you knew that he was getting a settlement?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So Stephen came to me, like I said,
asked me if I can give him $5,000. He didn't say lend. And I said, Stephen, I can't give you $5,000. I can let you borrow $3,000. He said, oh, come on, you can give me $5,000. You got the money. I said, Stephen, it's not about if I have the money. I can't afford it. You know, I was going to school. I put myself through college. And that was even before I got the settlement. So I've been working hard my whole life to save my own money. He said, come on, please, 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 you know. I said, all right, listen, I can let you borrow $3,000, but you got to pay me back. He said, well, I can't pay you back right away. I said, Stephen, I know you don't have money. If it takes you a year to pay me back, just pay me, you know, in drips and drabs, whatever you can, you know. So I gave him the money. He was so happy, you know. He said, thank you. My witness was present.
What did you write him a check?
I wrote him a check. And when I went to write him the check out, he said, don't write the check out to me, write it out to my father, because I don't have enough money in my account to cover it. Well, I said, that, you know, seems pretty sensible. He was asking me for the money, so obviously he didn't have money to cover it. And he said, I need the money right away because I have to put it down on a new apartment. So I said, no problem. I wrote the check out to his father so his father could cash it. After I gave him the money, I saw him less and less over the next 6 months. Come that October, I went back to college to get my bachelor's degree. So, and then I saw Stephen less even more. So I called Stephen up. Hey, Steve, I haven't talked to you in so long. How you been? What's going on? This and that. We talked like old buddies, like nothing had ever happened. Soon as I mentioned the money. What money? I said, Stephen, come on. You know, we grew up together. What do you mean, what money? You know? He said, you said that was a gift. I said, Stephen, come on. Who's going to give somebody $3,000? I was like, I haven't even given anybody in my own family $3,000, let alone a good friend. I said, I can let you, I let you borrow it. We said, that's not what you told me, and hung up the phone.
Okay, stop. Mr. Cutler, did you need money?
No, I did not, Your Honor.
You were working in 1995?
Yes, I was.
What kind of work were you doing?
Working in a soda distribution company.
Doing what?
Forklift work and just distribution, loading trucks up.
Okay. Were you evicted from residences at that time?
No, I wasn't.
Your Honor,
Well, tell me.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
Just a second. We let you speak. Get back in a second. You don't deny that he transferred, I'm not going to say gave, loaned, or whatever, he transferred $3,000 to you for your benefit?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Now you tell me how that came about, sir.
We were longtime friends. We grew up together in the same neighborhood. And I knew John was getting a settlement, and he said to me, he said, Steve, he said, if I ever get a large settlement, he says, I'm going to take care of you and George Altz because you guys have been my best friends for so many years. Now, that's what he said to me. He said, you guys are going to get $5,000 each and a trip to Europe, he said to me. He said, I'm going to take you to Europe on me. That's what he told me.
I'm going to take you to Europe.
To Europe, yes, on him. That we were going to go backpacking, hiking.
So did you ever do that?
No, we didn't. No, we
Okay.
didn't.
So tell me about the $3,000.
So as time went on, we were in the basement and together, and he said, Steve, he said, remember when I told you I was going to give you $5,000? I said, yes. He said, well, I can't afford to give you $5,000. He said, I spent a lot of money. He said, but I could afford to give you $3,000.
You mean, and that just came out of the blue?
Yes.
Just to hanging out in the basement?
Yeah, yes.
Did you say to him, what happened to the backpacking that we were going to do, the traveling
No,
we were going to do?
I never brought up Europe. I wasn't going to be greedy. I figured whatever, you know, he was going to give me, he was going to give me.
So it just came out of the blue?
To be honest with you, it's been a few years. I don't remember the exact conversation, how it was brought up.
I do.
To be honest with you.
Go ahead.
It never took place in my basement.
Yes, it did.
When he was living in the house and he was getting kicked out, that's when the money transpired, actually. Mr. Altz was present.
He was present?
Step up here, sir.
Yes, he was.
Your Honor,
Step up here,
he's
sir.
lying, Your Honor.
Just a second. That's my strong suit, sir, to tell who's lying. What makes sense? Common sense. Yes.
How you doing?
Your name is... I'm
George
doing
Waltz.
fine. How are you doing?
Good.
Pleased to hear that. Your name is?
George Waltz. Basically, me and Steve talked about getting a loan from John. Actually, it wasn't a loan. We wanted to receive $5,000. Stephen ended up asking him. I just kind of stayed off to the side. A short time after, Steve came back and said, he's not going to loan us $5,000. He'll let us borrow $3,000.
Why were you looking to borrow money?
Because I was in debt at the time, and I had a lot of bills. So did Stephen. So Stephen said, you know, I asked him, he would loan me $3,000. I said, I don't want a loan. If he's going to give me $3,000, I'll take the $3,000. I don't want another loan to get out of debt, to get back in debt with a friend. So I said, it's not even worth it.
Why would you think that your friend, Mr. Harkness, would give you money?
Like, we grew up together. I would. You got to understand our circumstances. You know, we've been through a lot since little kids. I thought maybe we can get some money from him
Can I add something,
as
Your
a
Honor?
friend.
Sure, step up here. Who are you?
My name's Joseph Smeltzer.
I know all three of these men here for well over 15 years. When John received his lawsuit, for years, well before he received it, Steve and George had been his best friend, lifelong best friends. John had bragged countless times, and specifically, that he was going to take care of them financially and give them a gift.
That's a lie, Your Honor.
Just a second. Were you present, sir, when you heard any discussion about $5,000 and a trip to Europe?
Yes, I was, many times. He made a lot of promises to a lot of people, not just Steve and George. I mean, he bragged that he was going to take care of a lot of people in many different ways. And
just a minute, a lot of people do that.
Yes, they do.
A lot
Absolutely,
of people
they
do that.
But you got to consider the fact when best friends of this nature, they're considered like family. They grew up all their lives. It's more like family. It's like if I came into $1 million tomorrow, I'd have no problem giving Steve $5,000.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a bitter man because I couldn't be friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more.
And later today,
You're going to give a box of ashes to your children and say, here, hold your grandmother?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Harkness wants his former best friend, Stephen Cutler, to give him back the $3,000 he loaned him. Stephen claims the money was a gift.
What you, Mr. Cutler, is suing for is on a contract. You say that there was a contract, and your contract with him was that he was going to give you a gift, right?
Correct.
A contract requires, in the law, something called consideration. There has to be something that you give to him and something that he gives to you in order for it to be enforceable. Otherwise, it's just puffing. I'm going to take care of all of my friends. Now, there's a certain amount of common sense that suggests to me that you are having certain problems in 1995.
Your
That
Honor,
has a ring of truth to it, sir.
Your Honor, $3,000 wasn't going to make any difference in my life at that time.
He was getting kicked out of the
whatsoever.
Just a second.
Whatsoever, Your Honor.
Just a second. Then why, Mr. Cutler, would you think, sir, that after several years, because this transaction took place several years ago, that Mr. Harkness would at this point sue you for the $3,000?
Because he's a bitter man, Your Honor.
Just a second. Why do you think he's a bitter man?
He's a bitter man because I was friends with him for a year after he gave me the $3,000. After that, I couldn't be friends with him no more because he had a swelled head and I couldn't deal with him no more. And a lot of people the same way. So
don't tell me about a lot of other people. What
two
about
years
you?
later, he calls me up on the phone and said, Steve, he says, the money that I gave you, I want it back. I said, John, you gave it to me as a gift. He said, doesn't matter. We don't speak no more. He says, I want the money back. I said, well, you're not going to receive the money. You gave it to me as a gift. And he said, well, I'll see you in court. And I said, I'll see you in court then.
Just a second. I'm going to resolve this in a minute. Did he make the check payable to your father?
Yes, he did. He told me, Your Honor, the reason why he made it out to my father was he told me, he goes, I don't want you spending it all in one place. He goes, I feel if your father is involved with it, he goes, your father will look out for the money better than you will. And that's why he wrote my check to my father.
Oh, no. You see, a very important thing for you to remember, sir, is that common sense is what's supposed to prevail in a court. If he were giving you money outright, he would have given you the check made out to you. And I'm going to tell you why. Because if you didn't need the money immediately, you could have opened up a bank account, put that check in the bank account, and waited for the check to clear. The fact that he made the check out to your father suggests to me that you needed the money immediately.
Yes.
And thank you for agreeing with me.
Sorry.
I also think, Mr. Cutler, that of all of his friends, I haven't heard of anybody else that just took money from him. Right? You haven't told me about anybody else that just took money.
I'm not the only one here, Your Honor. I mean,
there were other people.
There were other people.
No, there wasn't.
I could have brought many witnesses here, but...
Name one.
Just a second.
Why'd you bring him?
Hey!
Sorry.
Sit down now. Mr. Harkness, I am satisfied based upon primarily the one tangible thing that we know, which is that you both agree on, that you made the check payable to his father, and that suggests to me that there was an immediate need that he had for the funds,
Yes,
which
Your Honor.
supports your story that he needed the funds immediately for a new apartment, which is totally different from what he's saying, is that you were in the basement of your building making out a check, and you said, here, I'm going to give you some money.
No, never happened.
Well, I know you say it never happened. So I am giving you a judgment, sir, in the amount of $3,000, which is the amount of the loan. Thank you, that's all.
Party's excused. You may step out. That's right. Out this way, gentlemen. This way. Out the back, go to your right.
A freak in disguise, bro.
See, that's all he can say.
A freak in disguise.
That's all he
Look
can
at you.
say.
Rip off that suit and
That's all he
the
can
white
say.
trash.
White trash with a
Mama's a freak,
with
his
a
dad's a
bachelor's degree.
freak, his whole family's
Bachelor's degree.
freak.
Ask him what degree he has. Ask him how many degrees he has. Nothing. I'm white trash.
And now the next case.
Party's on Gendron versus Gendron. Step forward, please.
42-year-old Suzanne Gendron wants her former sister-in-law, Teresa Gendron, to return the ashes of her mother.
Very strange case. And very old. Your mother died 21 years ago, according to your complaint.
Correct.
How old was she when she died?
She was 54.
And according to your complaint, your former sister-in-law, that's you, has her ashes.
Correct.
And she's had them for 21 years.
Yes.
You want them back?
Yes, Your Honor.
First, what took you 21 years?
I have been asking her since my children were born. We had an agreement that if and when I had children, because I was not married when my mom passed on, if and when I had children, that she would give the ashes to me to watch over my children. And
when did you make this agreement?
This was the year after my mother died, and we had agreed to that. And I began asking her for them when my daughter was born. My daughter, Sarah Louise, she's named after my mom. And I have not been successful in getting them from her since then. And we need her very much.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You don't know what it's like growing up in a house
Well,
full of men
you know, it's not
with no
like
woman's
Susan.
touch.
Susan, I'm
No
sorry.
one-
What woman's touch are you going to get from an urn or an ash?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 42-year-old Suzanne Gendron wants her former sister-in-law, Teresa Gendron, to return the ashes of her mother.
Hello.
How are you?
So?
So, I never agreed to give her back the ashes when her children were born. My mother-in-law confided in me that when she passed away, she wanted to be cremated, and she wanted her ashes thrown where her father used to dock his boat in Long Branch. I never knew exactly where this was, so I didn't want to just take her and just put her ashes anywhere. So the reason that I still have the ashes is because to this day I don't know exactly where she wanted her ashes thrown. She asked me to do this. I took it seriously, and that's why I still have the ashes. I never agreed to give you back the ashes.
Were you close to your mother before she died?
Yes, I was very close.
And did you hear her say, was she ill before she died?
No.
She was not. So this was, her death was sudden?
Very sudden. She had a heart attack.
When did she tell you that she wanted to be cremated?
She lived in Plainfield, and when she was in Plainfield, we spent a lot of time together. Suzanne didn't live in Plainfield. Suzanne lived in Montreal. And on one of our outings or trips to the shore, she told me that this is what she wanted because that's where she felt most peaceful.
That's
Now,
right.
Is that right?
Yes, and I have explained to my sister-in-law that I am prepared and I insist that we fulfill my mother's last wish. My Aunt Beth and my brother went last summer together to the exact spot where my mom wants her ashes scattered, and it was always in the agreement that I would have my mother for a short time and then we would all go to that spot. We know exactly where it is.
Great. Well,
And
then
we
this is a
want-
very easy lawsuit to
We
resolve.
want to fulfill my mother's last wish.
And so do you.
And so do I.
Good. And when do you intend to do that?
Well, I was unaware that the aunt and my ex-husband knew or even went to this spot.
Well,
what
but
I
then-
want to know is why they didn't include me and bring me with them so that we could have fulfilled my mother-in-law's wishes a year ago.
Absolutely. That's going to happen.
That's going to happen.
That's
I never
going to
said I
happen.
would.
When do you want it to happen is the question.
On her 25th, on the anniversary, the 25th anniversary of her death, which will be in 3 years.
No. Why would you want to wait another 3 years?
Because I don't have very long to live. I've been diagnosed with 2 different terminal illnesses. And I would like for my children and for myself, I have some very difficult battles to fight, and I need my mother's strength. And I don't think that after 21 years, I don't think that 2 years or 2.5 years is going to hurt my mom that much. I think she'll enjoy being with me, her daughter, and her grandchildren.
Ms. Gendron, what you say is very sad, but you can't give yourself, nobody can predict the moment that an illness that you have, even if it's a terminal one, is going to cause you to leave this earth. And I wouldn't like you to live under that kind of an onus anyway. I mean, that's a terrible thing. Right now, your mother, and you acknowledge that, had a dying wish. And her wish was that she be cremated, which she was, and that she wanted to rest peacefully, having her ashes dispersed in a certain way.
Yes.
So you have to do that.
Yes.
And you have to do that now. It's been all too long delayed.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What is clear to me is that every person has the right to dictate what happens to them at the time of their death. Your mother did that.
Yes, she
It's
did.
been delayed for 21 years. It should not be delayed at all. I will make an order, and you tell me at what point you're going to be ready to go to New Jersey. That's where she wanted to be scattered. So you tell me when, and I will fix a time frame, a week or a 2-week period.
Spring.
In the spring? Step up here. Yes. April? Good. April.
How about May? May 15th. That's my daughter's birthday. She's named after my mother.
Is that a good date?
That's a good date.
May 15th?
Yes.
Fine. That on or before May 15th, the two of you, together with any of the siblings that want to accompany you, will finally fulfill your mother's last wish. Case is resolved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Please.
Thank you.
And on the next Judge Judy.
In my opinion, my sister-in-law feels like a box of ashes is going to take all her guilt and loss away from her. That's going to put something back into her life. I don't live with the box of ashes.
It's not a
I
box
live
of
with
ashes. It's my
memories.
mom.
You're going to give a box of ashes to your children and say, "Here, hold your grandmother"?
No, I had a beautiful urn made for Mom. You don't know what it's like growing up in a house
Well,
full of
that,
men
you know, it's
with
not
no
like
woman's
Susan.
touch.
Susan, I'm
No.
sorry. What woman's touch are you going to get from an urn or an ash?
Thank you.
नंबर इस तरफ आई नंबर किट वगैरह भी देना किट वगैरह दे दो
Thank you.
किट देना किट
Watch out! Watch out! Marked a location. Watch out!
3 नंबर को किट वगैरह है तो दे यार उसमें बच्चे
Watch out!
कुत्ते दा पुत्तर वे तेरे
Help!
फातिमा लाना था तेरी जिंदगी
Awesome.